A man is waiting under the rain when he notices a weak young lady fallen on the ground, making him nervous. He asks if she is okay and screams that someone has fallen on the ground. There is no one there, so he decides to help her. She asks him to give her a mouthful of human fluid. The thoughts of vampires that take human fluid instantly ran through his mind, scaring him and making him exclaim how crazy this was. He called for an ambulance, but there was no one there. He then wonders if this is the real thing. She tearfully pleaded that she would do anything, making him look at her nervously, but feels pity for her. He ends up giving her the human fluid, which was pathetic and totally lame. And that is how the two met each other for the very first time. After a while, when she regains consciousness, she kneels and thanks him, telling him her name is Sumeir, and she is a vampire, then asks how she can repay him. He tells her it was nothing, and she responds of how humble he is and asks if he was a samurai, but he responds he's just an ordinary guy. She bows to him, exclaiming that he saved her and he should allow her to do something for him, but he rejects, telling her she doesn't have to. At his apartment, she asks to be pardoned for the intrusion, and he nervously thinks of how he couldn't leave her out in the rain, so he ends up bringing her back to his home. She asks if his roommates are around, but he responds that he is a bachelor and lives on his own. He apologizes for the mess as he tries tidying the room and tells her he doesn't usually have guests over. His name is Yakumo Ren. She is happy and tells him he is the perfect human for every vampire. Looking at her, Ren tells her that she is drooling. She tells him vampires are trained every day to take humans, and also begs to help with anything at all, while Ren just stares blankly at her and responds that he doesn't truly need help with anything, making her think of what she can do. She examines his body with her vampire thermography and informs him his circulation is terrible, and he responds of having a sedentary job. She concludes by giving him a massage, but he refuses, saying he doesn't think it is right to make her do something like that as they just met. But she pleads with him to let her do it till he finally agrees. She sat on his back for the massage and felt like she was riding a horse. She comments on how huge he is, and he responds that it is painful to be that huge. She tells him to relax as she will start by massaging his shoulder. She uses her fist to massage his shoulder and asks him if it feels good, but he responds that it tickles a bit, which means it is not working. She proceeds to stand on his back and thinks of how uncool it looks, and he tells her to keep it up, making her apply more pressure, and he responds that he is feeling it now. After the massage, she hugs his hands with love and expresses how nice he is, and also has tons of fluid, which she comments on as being super tasty, and reveals that he is the best human in the world. This makes him fidget, and he replies that he has never been complimented like that before. He then proceeds to ask how it tastes, and she happily expresses that it has a deep, spicy flavor and faint fragrance with an aftertaste that brings to mind a cool breeze on a summer day. This wows Ren, and he comments that she has an unexpectedly refined palate. She fiercely tells him she can't have only her own appetite satisfied and decides to prepare dinner, but becomes confused when it comes to differentiating between salt and sugar, and proceeds to ask Ren for clarification, which prompts a surprised Ren to ask if she doesn't know the flavor. She puts on the gas, saying this is the kind of stove where fire comes out, and in school they use induction stovetops, which is a little different, which makes Ren ask if she will be okay. She starts her cooking on high flames while singing and replies to Ren that she is going to be okay, telling him to enjoy the amazing sight of her cooking. The pot catches fire, making her scream as she freaks out. She cried loudly while holding the handle of the pot, and Ren handed her the lid of the pot, telling her to put the lid on and turn off the heat. After her cooking, she serves black burnt food on the plate and calls it sweet and sour pork, which Ren comments that it is certainly fragrant. She bows to him, crying loudly, saying she can't pay him back at all, but Ren isn't moved and calmly tells her he doesn't mean to pry and asks why she fell into a place like that. She narrows her eyes and responds that the rules in the world of vampires are strict, and a dropout like her can't even take human fluid properly, and there is also no place for someone like her in the world of vampires, so that's why she can't go back. She tells him she wonders why life is hard, with tears in her eyes as she smiles, making Ren reply that both humans and vampires have it rough, and adds that he doesn't know how it is for vampires, but smiles, and tells her if she doesn't have anywhere to go, she can stay here with him for now, making her nervously ask if that is okay with him, which he responds that she doesn't, seems like a bad girl, and he has been feeling a bit lonely. She becomes very excited and jumps on his back, exclaiming how happy she is, and thanking him, to which Ren replies that she must be cold after being out in the rain and tells her to wait while he runs her a bath. She exclaims, happily feeling alive again while preparing to bathe. While in the bath, she loudly laughs, saying she is saved, dives in the water, and reasons that she doesn't have to bathe in the river anymore or lurk in the shadows of the alleyways, thanking goodness for this. She explains that the new home she was given was so warm that it brought tears to her eyes. She keeps thanking goodness while she sheds passionate tears. Ren smiles at her from outside the door. Later that night, Ren apologizes to her for not having a proper change of clothes for her, but she replies happily that she found herself a fantastic dress, which a nervous Ren calls his t-shirt, telling her to make do with that for today. Before sunset, she thinks of making him breakfast, as he is still sleeping. She holds on to bread and wonders how bread is a staple food and why humans heat food that can be eaten as it is. She blocks the windows from sunlight while she prepares some soup and salad, because they say it is good for nutritional balance. In the end, she prepared shredded veggies, a cup of ramen, and almost burnt toast. She also complimented on how human food is complicated, but concluded that Ren will be more than satisfied with all she prepared. She gets the dining set and prepares to wake him up. She imagines how pleased Ren will be with her, and how he will keep thanking her after waking him and serving him, and concludes that is the best plan. She proceeds to wake him and hopes he lets her take human fluid as a reward. Ren wakes up himself and opens the door tiredly, making her scream horribly at him. Shattering her plans, she angrily yells at him why he woke up on his own, and he nervously responds that his alarm went off and apologizes. It was revealed that she stopped the alarm clock and put it under sunlight to burn while Ren looked blankly. While he eats, he comments on the room looking clean while she replies if he noticed it. She proudly tells him that she took the opportunity to tidy up while he was resting, making him thank her. He pats her on the head and she requests to be praised a lot while Ren thinks of her acting like a dog. Ren leaves for work and bids her goodbye while she tells him to have a nice day. She yawns and decides to get some sleep as the sun is up, but she recalls leaving her coffin behind and thinks of what else to use. She customizes a cardboard coffin with tapes and wonders if it is perfect, bids herself goodbye and sleeps. After hours of sleeping, she slightly opens her eyes and finally wakes up to stretch, exclaiming that she slept like a log of wood. She gets out of the box and wears her leggings. She stretches, exclaiming to keep the pace going in the afternoon. She adjusts her hair and looks at the window, wondering if the laundry is dry. She goes out to bring in the clothes and wonders why the apartment doesn't get any sun in the afternoon and how fine the property is. She sniffs the clothes and exclaims of having the scent of being backed by the blasted sun. But there is something else about it. There is a strong smell of Ren like the wind in the ocean on a tropical island at night, and she is already salivating that somehow it is getting her appetite up, making her all hungry. She tries to control herself because Ren gave her human fluid yesterday, but she can't stop imagining how yummy Ren's physique is. She expresses how Ren's big body was, he having tons of human fluid and she needing a mouthful or two, unable to resist. Night came, but Ren is not home yet. He is seen walking home, expressing how stressful overtime was. Sumeir jumps on him, exclaiming how hungry he made her and how he is so yummy that she couldn't resist him. He gives her human fluid and she apologizes for her mind going blank. He replies it was partially his fault and decides to get phones so they can at least contact each other. Days later, he arrives from work and she welcomes him, then announces to her that he was able to finish some of his work for the week and starting tomorrow he will be off. She was amazed to hear this and danced around in celebration, making him smile. He tells her they will have some time to themselves now and they should go shopping, making her jump and scream in excitement. She was eager to get going, but he stopped her and told her the dress was standing out a little too much. She responded that those were the only clothes she had. He informs her of them causing disturbance if they stand out too much, and tells her he should go alone for today, making her throw herself to the ground in tears and a continuous scream of wanting to go with him. She tells him she can hide her wings so as not to cause attention, but he wraps her up in a cloth, making her feel loved. They went in search of a supermarket and they saw one nearby. They go in and Sumeir exclaims how big it was and Ren replies it is, making her ask if they sell only human food. She expresses that human have a system that makes it easy to procure food while vampires have nothing as enviable as that. She climbs on Ren's back, attracting people while she expresses how meeting Ren turned out alright, but he tells her that if she fools around they will stand out, and Ren stands out a lot. They get to the meat slot and Ren asks if they are out of the meat while an uninterested Sumeir exclaims how the meat department is impressive and how you can feel the life in it. She lifts packs of meat and tells Ren to eat lots of it to make tons of yummy fluid, but he tells her he can't buy that much. She sniffs out an odd smell and realizes the meat steak has garlic in it, but calls it bad-tasting meat instead. She calls it a human trap and says they can't get away with this, making realize she doesn't like garlic. She exclaims horribly that it is not a matter of preference but makes her limb become paralyzed and breathing becomes impossible, and this is a thing developed as a countermeasure against vampires, making Reem perceive the steak too but couldn't find anything. She asks if he understands what she is saying and he affirms. They get to the clothes section and he tells her this is what shopping is like, and tells her to get some clothes while they are there, making her confirm if it is okay, which she agrees. He tells her to pick whatever she wants, and she replies that she is all teensy and picks a wear for herself. She changes into the clothes but complains of the cloth being tight around the upper area and expresses how hard it is to find clothes that fit, which Ren agrees to. She goes back to the changing room to wear an undershirt and a top. She exclaims how perfect it is for humans and Ren agrees once again. They went to the cashier to pay for all they bought and were informed that it was 3,020 yen. The cashier informs Ren of walking late at night with a girl and him not look like they have any relationship, making Ren nervous and severely amazed. Sumeir thinks of this as a chance to pull off a skillful deception and thinks of a male and a female pair being unnatural. She proudly responds to the cashier, telling her they are lovers, leaving Ren's jaw dropping out of shock. He nervously laughs, pats her head, and tells the cashier that she is a relative and he is just looking after her, and tells her she knows better how to tease him. Sumeir asks Ren if she should have told him he grabbed her off the street and how worse it would be. They walked home and Sumeir was happy. She smiled to herself, making Ren concerned. She tells him she has never had so much fun in her life before and she is having the time of her life, making him stare at her blankly and then smile. She dragged him along, saying since they came all this way they should return home through another way. But unknowing to them, someone was behind them. There was a lady with dark long hair who recognized Ren but didn't know Sumeir, as both of them went home joyfully. As they walk, she asks him if walking around at night is fun. As she walks happily, she informs him that this is the time vampires are invincible and she can strut her stuff. She notices something off and asks an ignorant Ren if someone is following them. She yells at the person hiding in the shadows to come out. The lady with long dark hair comes out of her hiding place, nervously making Sumeir exclaim of her being a female human. While Ren is perplexed, the terrified lady asks who Sumeir is, but Sumeir replies saying she should be the one asking that. Sumeir calls her a person who breaks home and says she was lured by Ren's delicious smell, but Ren cuts her off, saying the lady is not her and tries to say who she is, till Sumeir catches her scent and goes to sniff the lady and becomes confused. Ren draws the lady closer to himself while Sumeir asks if they are related, making Ren answer that they are in a relationship. Sumeir expressed that they smell so similar and made Ren's sister sniff herself, but Ren tells her not to bother, as she won't be able to tell. Ren's sister is Yakumo Minori, and she asks who Sumeir is, expressing how young she looks. While Sumeir was calm all of a sudden, Minori suddenly questions Ren if he took in a runaway schoolgirl, which Ren instantly declines. He whispers to Sumeir that they need to tell the family what is really going on so that things won't go bad, which she agrees with. Sumeir shyly tells Minori that she and Ren are life partners, while Ren tells Sumeir not to complicate things. In Ren's house, he informs Minori that Sumeir is a vampire, making her scream loudly. She calms down and smiles at Sumeir, saying she is at the age where she gets brooding, making Sumeir furious about Minori making fun of her. Sumeir licks Ren's neck and tells Minori that she will show her how she takes Ren's fluid in detail, which angers Minori, who grabs Sumeir and drags her away from Ren, screaming about what Sumeir wants to do to him, and tells her to get away from him. Sumeir screams that Ren is hers while Minori declines, and a frustrated Ren tells them he would appreciate it if they don't objectify him like that. Minori tells them she will try to accept that Sumeir is a vampire, making Ren tell her not to choke. She suddenly brings out a disposable chopstick made like a cross and screams at Sumeir, saying she won't let her have her Ren by the power of Christ. Sumeir mockingly asks what the toy is making. Minori realizes the cross isn't working. She looks at the cross, trying to fathom if she will need to drive a stake through her heart or use a silver bullet. But Sumeir replies to her again that none of those things she is planning will work, and if she wants to defeat a vampire, she should use garlic, making Ren agree to it as the easiest of all. Ren and Minori explain everything, and finally, Ren informs Minori of Sumeir living in his apartment, making Minori exclaim how kind he is to people. She explains to Sumeir about understanding how things are tough for vampires, but how humans have their concepts of what's proper, and requests that Sumeir come to her place because it will be wholesome and won't raise any eyebrows, making Sumeir look in confusion. Sumeir informs a nervous Minori and bites on her skin to take her fluid. She expresses that Minori's fluid is a bit fatty and tells her to exercise more before asking her to move in with her again. While Minori says bad things to Sumeir, they wrestle, making Ren tell them fighting will not solve anything, and they should all get along, which they stop instantly, exclaiming how immature they have been. Sumeir evilly smiles and asks them to shake hands, which Minori blindly agrees to. They shake hands, but Sumeir squeezes Minori's hands and comments on how weak her handshake is while using her vampire super strength. Minori freaks out in pain, calling Sumeir a freaking chimpanzee, while Ren wonders what he is going to do with both of them. A few nights later, Ren bids Sumeir goodnight and goes to bed, and she begins to wonder how she always gets fluid from Ren every day, which is not always enough, and if she tries to take more from him, it will have an impact on his health, so she needs to form a plan. She excitedly brings out a book she uses in her vampire school and reads through it. She expressed that hunger can be mitigated by the use of milk. She realizes if she drinks milk between taking human fluid, she can alleviate both her own hunger and the burden on Ren's health. After looking at the cycle in her note, she reads that human money can be exchanged for goods and services, but can't read the rest of the other note. And that is when she recalls that that was the time the teacher got mad at her for falling asleep. She regretted not paying attention in class. She encourages herself that even if there were parts she couldn't understand, she knows that she can get milk at the store. She brings out a wallet with money in it given to her by Ren as allowance for emergencies and decides to go to the store to get some milk. She rushes down the hallway wanting to go to the store they went to previously, and it should take time as she has been there once, but unfortunately for her, she gets lost and doesn't know where she is. Someone calls out to her from behind and tells her she shouldn't be out walking around alone at night. The person was none other than Ren's sister. Sumeir says back to Minori that isn't a young woman walking outside at night, making Minori reply that she is an adult and is on her way home from work, and asks Sumeir what she is doing around there at night. Sumeir looks away, telling Minori she is wandering and not lost, but Minori could sense the lie in it and knew she was lost. Sumeir tells Minori of her plan, and Minori responds that she heard that woman's milk is quite close to human fluid, and she can see the logic in it. Minori directs Sumeir to a convenience store close to them, and Sumeir appreciates her. She comes out moments later with bags with milk in them, and happily meets Minori, where she waits while Sumeir tells her the milk should reduce the burden on Ren. When Sumeir looks closely at the milk, she discovers some of them are not real. She bangs on the floor in frustration, exclaiming how malicious it is to use similar packaging and calling it a human trap, making Minori think of her as more of an idiot. Back home, she tries out the milk and comments that it is good and not far from human fluid, and takes some edge off the hunger. She wonders what to do with the other ones she bought by mistake, and tossing them would be a waste, so she will give them a try. She happily comments how this was close to the consistency of human fluid, and how she should have been drinking this earlier instead. She becomes full but lands in the closet, and it is revealed that the unreadable part of the notebook says beware of similar products. After sunrise, Ren wakes up and greets Sumeir, but realizes she is worn out, making her respond that she is on a diet, but he sees the lie in it. He exclaims all these happened while he was sleeping, and she responds that she doesn't want to increase the burden on his health, but her stomach starts growling. He tells her since she means well to him too, she can come and have a sip to celebrate, making her jubilate. She takes on his fluid and he tells her not to force herself. She exclaims that he is spoiling her, making him reply that the thought alone is more than enough. At night, in Ren's workplace, there was pressure everywhere, and he was tense. He wonders how everything is on fire with the project at hand, which is bad. He answers a call apologizing for the inconvenience caused and assuring of treating the urgency. When he left work, he was stressed and worried about work. He walks in still in thought, but Sumeir suddenly jumps on him, welcoming him, and tells him she has been waiting. He looks blankly, adjusts his glasses, and smiles. While walking through the hallway, he comments on liking someone here with him, making Sumeir confused. She asks why he is later than before, and he responds that there was a big panic at work and he spent the whole day apologizing, which was so busy that he wished he had extra pairs of hands. On hearing this, Sumeir dogges to him and tells him to leave apologizing to her and saying she is super good at it, but he ignorantly asks if that was a really good dog. She ignores the question and announces she prepared him dinner happily, making him freak out. But she tells him she gave it her all and it is not going to be burnt like when she first came. She brings a savoring meal and calls it Salisbury steak, while Ren comments it looks really good. The kitchen was very messed up and Ren calls it a broken kitchen. She responds that they are wounds earned in battle. She hops and announces that she filled the bathtub, which he thanks her for, and she tells him to take a bath first. Ren got in the tub and there was barely enough space and water in the tub, but when it was Sumeir's turn, there was barely enough water in the tub for her to use, and Ren told her to refill it. When they are done bathing, Ren tells her he had a rough day, and thanks to her, he will be able to give it all it takes the next day. She blushes and tells him to stop or she'll blush. She responds to Ren that she is not really asking for a reward, but would appreciate it if she can get today's fluid till she checks on him to find out he is asleep. She thinks of him being so tired and falling right asleep, and despite his job every day, he still lets her take his fluid. She hugs him and bids him good night. In the shadows, voices can be heard of how crazy the place is, and it was said that a familiar vampire smell is lingering in the place teeming with humans. Two other vampires like Sumeir were seen, and one was holding a long sword. She is telling the other that they should go take a look, and the other comments that her nose is as good as ever. Sumeir blushes and decides to let Ren sleep and decides to use the opportunity to clean up the messed up kitchen. She perceived an unfamiliar scent coming from the door. She tried looking at them through the peephole on the door. Unfortunately, there was a crash and rustle sounds waking Ren up from his sleep. He put on his glasses to see that the two other vampires had bundled Sumeir and tied her mouth. One of them apologizes for waking him up, making him realize they were vampires like Sumeir. One of them introduces herself as Dahlia, and Ren tells her who he is while extending his business card to her and thinks of how friendly she was all of a sudden. Dahlia exclaims wanting to keep Ren's mouth shut by turning him into a snack, but Ren takes back his earlier comment about her and says she is too bad. Sumeir screams at them not to touch Ren. Dahlia laughs loudly, squeezing Sumeir's head, telling her to shut up, or she will see her head off, making Sumeir apologize. Ren nervously tells them not to handle Sumeir roughly while Sumeir screams his name. Dahlia tells Sumeir to quit struggling, and asks her partner if she can behead them in order to get rid of the evidence, which her partner disagrees with. Dahlia's partner tells her to hold on to find out, as it seems Sumeir and Ren know each other, which Dahlia concurs with. She calls her partner Kikyu, and tells her she was thinking about it too, while Ren thinks of it not being what she said moments ago. After the narration, the other vampires realize how lucky Sumeir was to find such a nice person, while Sumeir they aren't setting her free. Kikyu thanks Ren for saving one of their own and for keeping their existence a secret, which nervous Ken replies no problem to. Kikyu tells Ren they will be on their way with Sumeir, making her look confused. She tries to free herself, saying she is not going. She falls and wriggles like a maggot towards Ren, saying she knows they work well together and she doesn't need to go home as she can just live there, which Ren agrees to and expresses how lively the house is with Sumeir around. Kikyu declines, saying they may be good together, but they would be throwing the vampire world into considerable disarray. With that, Dahlia, who was smiling, tightened her fist and told Sumeir to come along quietly, terrifying both Sumeir and Ren. And already rumbling, Dahlia tells Sumeir to follow them and offers to give her a hand, dragging Sumeir by the shirt. Ren grabs Dahlia's hands, telling her to hold on, and tells them because Sumeir doesn't have a place in their world, she ends up falling in the rain. But they say they want to take her back home is a little too convenient. This word of Ren makes Sumeir amazed. Dahlia laughs loudly and replies to Ren to tell the person in charge of Sumeir's education who neglected her that they have their own job to do. Ren and Dahlia drag for Sumeir, but Ren is not giving in, making Dahlia tell Kikyu of Ren being stubborn and not backing down, and also asks if she should get rid of him. Ren, Kikyu, and a smiling Dahlia stare at each other. Kikyu tries to consider saying they can't just set her loose after finding her and tells Ren she understands his point and his force of will. She informs them that she needs to discuss what happens next, and she is going to make a report, also telling Dahlia to wait with them. Dahlia comments how soft Kikyu is, but states she likes that about her while Sumeir is boiling in anger. She turns into a bat to make a conference-like call with Dahlia while Sumeir and Ren stare at them, with Ren saying they have been talking for a long while. Sumeir asks him to predict the outcome. Dahlia is seen communicating with a bat and tells them she has gotten his name down, while Ren replies that all she is saying is messed up. Kikyu comes back, making Ren and Sumeir exclaim in surprise, and she informs them she has handled the situation now. Kikyu asks if Sumeir was really in the class and sees the reason why she is not eager to go back, while Ren wonders what the class is. She informs an eager Sumeir and Ren that they have decided to handle the situation, stating that Sumeir is breaking their laws, but they can look at it as a good set of circumstances. As long as she takes a specialized educator and escort, she will be allowed to live with the human on a trial basis. Kikyu informs Sumeir of the final conclusion that she will be her educator, while Dahlia will be the escort. Dahlia laughs out loud. Sumeir happily jumps around Ren, saying she can finally stay with him. He laughs with her, but Kikyu cuts them, saying they will need to prepare a space, which Dahlia informs her of the vacant room next door, which will be convenient. The next evening, Kikyu and Dahlia set up their base next door. Ren is shocked seeing Dahlia cutting the walls, saying moving between rooms will be stressful, so she will just make a shortcut. Kikyu with a clock expresses that Ren raises the funds and Sumeir does the housework like she said, and this is just the perfect time. She calls out to Sumeir, telling her she will fix supper for the lad, which is Ren, so they will see what she can do. Sumeir was excited and full of energy that she was given a chance to show off her skill, and she will give it her all. She ends up preparing what she calls the delicacy of the sea and mountain rice, which infuriates Kikyu, who tells her not to play with food, making Sumeir answer that she is serious. Kikyu explains that even if the present human society is in a time of gluttony and sanitation, it was hard work and much effort to lay hands on that much food. Dahlia announces this as one of Kikyu's olden days story time. Kikyu lends Dahlia's sword and tells Sumeir to pull down her pants, which Sumeir asks what she wants to do, but Kikyu tells her it is educating, and hits her, making Sumeir scream loudly. Later that night, Dahlia comments on Ren, saying he is gigantic and she is tall but not up to him. Kikyu checks out his arms, imagining them to be like logs, and says humans of his type are splendid specimens. Sumeir stretches her nose and proudly agrees, making Dahlia ask why her nose is in the air or she will cut it down to size. Dahlia hugs Ren, telling him she is starting to feel hungry and would like to taste his fluid, which Ren tells her to stop making people feel like a snack. Dahlia adjusts to Ren, ready to take a bite, when Sumeir fires at her, saying Ren is her partner, but Dahlia insists that she wants just a little, which Sumeir disagrees with. Kikyu hands a fluid pack to Dahlia, telling her to drink that instead, but Dahlia complains of being fed up with fluid packs and wants to drink from the source. Dahlia blames Ren for having a yummy-looking body, making Ren apologize, for which Kikyu questions him for telling him not to get trapped in her nonsense. Sumeir raises her hands to ask Kikyu a question. She says Ren has not been energetic lately, which may be due to her drinking his fluid, and when he goes to bed it is like he is falling. She asks Kikyu what she should do in this kind of situation, which makes Kikyu affirm that Sumeir noticed his exhaustion after all. If not, she would have given her some education, making Sumeir a bit joyed, while Dahlia is pleading to get her sword back from Kikyu. Kikyu states that there are two possible solutions. The first is to feed the subject with plenty of nutrition and relaxation, and the second is to reduce the amount of fluid she drinks. Kikyu decides to start with the first by cooking and states that the lad might be suffering from an iron deficiency and is close to being anemic. She tells Sumeir to feed him with food with high iron contents and have him rest. Rin eats and Sumeir jots down what is being taught, while Kikyu explains the second solution. Once the quality of his fluid has been raised, she will help him by taking a little of his fluid, and keeping the lad in good shape will create a good cycle. Kikyu also adds that Sumeir can also give an appropriate massage to improve his fluid, which Sumeir responds that she tried, but Ren's body is stiff. Dahlia tutors Sumeir how to give a massage by massaging Ren with her absurd super strength in her elbow, making Ren scream in pain as the massage takes effect. Shay stretches Ren's hands and tells him once he gets used to it, he will be good, and adds that she will collect just 200 ml of his body fluid as payment, making Ren wonder why she hasn't given up yet. Sumeir gets furious and walks up to Dahlia, telling her she will continue the massage for Ren, which makes a laughing Dahlia ask if she is jealous, but Sumeir denies it. Kikyu gives Ren a fluid-producing drug which he tries to find out about, and she tells him that it is a medicine that aids in restoring depleted fluid, and it is something like a nutrient drink created by vampires. She warns that it is not something he can drink all the time, but in this case, he can drink it to restore his lost strength quickly, which Ren gladly accepts and drinks. At first, there was no effect, but suddenly veins appeared all over his hands and body, making him exclaim how amazing it was. He suddenly gets so energetic that he wants to just get his body moving, and ends up doing push-ups while Sumeir is happy that Ren is now energetic again. Ren's activeness begins to get out of hand, which Dahlia instantly complains of to Kikyu. Kikyu observes him and tells them it might not be normal, and that his body did not take the medicine well, which Dahlia responds that he took it too well. Ren suddenly announces going for a run and leaves while Sumeir tells him to wait a bit. All of the three vampires have to fly to look for Ren after going wild. They see him running along the road as Dahlia calls out and Sumeir agrees. Sumeir screams that she will stop him right away, flying towards his direction, but an energized Ren drags her along, making her scream in fear, while Kikyu wonders what Sumeir is playing at and decides to go help stop him. Gigantic Ren drags Kikyu and Sumeir as well while still running, while Kikyu screams at Dahlia for help, and Dahlia responds to the situation by being funny and wishes to keep watching. Dahlia, who seems to be the strongest among them, grabs Ren by the neck and stops him instantly. He is bundled and carried back home. Later that night, Ren is seen sitting in a corner of the room silently while Dahlia exclaims how calm he is. Sumeir sighs and thanks goodness but is cut short by Kikyu, who tells them that is not all, and tells them after he recovered too much body fluid, his mind has flown to the coop, which shocks Sumeir. Dahlia suggests they should drink the excess body fluid from Ren so he gets better, which Kikyu agrees to while Sumeir volunteers to drink his fluid. Eager Sumeir exclaims she is learning how to handle emergencies, which is part of a partner's duty. Dahlia informs Sumeir that she is drooling, unknown to her. She informs them of her going for the drink. She drinks Ren's body fluid for a while till her tummy is full, and she asks if that was enough, while Kikyu examines him and replies that what she drank was not even close. Ren's veins are still out, and Sumeir asks what they can do next, making Dahlia offer their help to her. She replies that Ren's life is irreplaceable, so she will allow them to drink him just this once. They pulled off Ren's shirt and together they drank his fluid. A day passes until Ren finally opens his eyes, which Kikyu asks. Kikyu apologizes to Ren and tells him that never the fluid-producing medicine would have such an effect on him. He responds by saying there is light out and he slept all through the night, but she cuts in informing him that he slept for up to 40 hours, making him exclaim half a day. She informs him of contacting his work and pretends to be his mother, letting them know he would be absent, making Ren exclaim that it was skillfully done. She also informs him that Sumeir stayed by his side the whole time until she grew tired and fell asleep, which is not unexpected. Kikyu asks Ren how he is, as that is more important, making Ren feel his wrist and responds that he feels good and his body feels light, which makes him think it was because he overslept after taking the medicine. Ren rather apologizes to them for causing them so much trouble, but Kikyu replies that he did nothing wrong, telling him Dahlia was able to drink a lot of body fluid and is high in spirit. Kikyu quickly arranges something for Ren to eat, asking if he must be hungry, and he thanks her in return. As Ren eats, he exclaims how amazing Kikyu is, saying even if she has a different palate from humans, her food is delicious. He looks up at her but realizes she fell asleep and wonders if she was also staying up till he was awake. He smiles, covers her with a cover cloth quietly, and thinks of how scary they were at first, but in the end they turn out to be nice people. He plans on giving Dahlia a blanket too and moves towards her, but she springs up saying she is awake and she has always been shocking Ren. He exclaims that she surprised him and wonders what the snot bubble in her nose was. She informs him that she is on the lookout, so her eyes are always wide open, which Ren wonders. Never seeing her eyes open before, a bat is seen whispering to Kikyu, while Dahlia announces that they have a message, which makes Kikyu finally call out to Sumeir, telling her they must make an appearance at the academy. This announcement makes Sumeir freak out and scream while Kikyu informs her of her unwillingness to go, but this must be done properly, telling her to sort it out as Sumeir sighs in surrender. Kikyu faces Ren and asks if he would like to come with them, which prompts him to ask if it is okay, and Kikyu agrees. When they get to the academy building, Ren is amazed by the view before him, while three vampire students are seen complimenting seeing a human in their school, how tasty he looks, thinking of another class having hands-on lessons, and finally how he is making them hungry. Ren freaks out and Dahlia asks him what he is freaking out for, which makes him respond to her that the sight of him making vampires hungry is scary. One of the students thinks of Sumeir's face and examines it while she glances along. It was announced that they had reached the entrance and a vampire welcomes Ren, expressing how pleased they are to have him. He is an old vampire and he tells Ren that he is the president of the school, and his name is Tonariko, thanking Ren once again for coming. Tonariko tells Ren that he is a very important person when it comes to the future of the vampire's world, which is why he wants to meet Ren in person at least once, which makes Ren whisper to Sumeir if he is really that important, while Sumeir profusely sweats as she stares confused, which Ren noticed. Tonariko decides to break the current state of the vampire world down to Ren. He explains that the students in their school study all about humans from ecology, psychology, economics, international affairs, and so on. And fully fledged vampires are permitted to create contracts with humans, and the humans are commonly called retainers. So as they take the retainer's fluid, they use all their accumulated knowledge and innate abilities to help the retainer achieve societal success, And the more successful the retainer becomes, the deeper their bond with the vampire becomes, which secures a long-term fluid feed. Tenosico further explains that not all students follow that path. Instead, some end up in internal management, education, and others, which is said to be the image of the modern vampire. After listening to this, confirms that this means exchanging fluid for a super amazing personal assistant, which Tonorico agrees to. Tonorico tells Ren that while the human world evolves day by day, vampires find their place in the fading away world, which they must find a way to overcome. One of the vampires that accompanied Tonorico comments on his ability to use big words, but lacks the willpower to back them up. The vampire explains that nothing is accomplished by coddling those who fail to save the falling vampire world, and they must increase their effort on the education, which will refocus them on the production of superior progeny. He then proceeds to ask Tonorico, the principal, if he plans to cast aside their traditions and pride. One of the vampires on headphones replies that the outcast students are causing trouble in the human world, and they need to change tactics and create a system where even weaklings can survive, making a vampire with a bell on his head comment that cooperating with a human in an eat-and-be-eaten relationship is difficult, and the most efficient way is to convert them to livestock, which solves the environmental issue and is an eco-friendly solution. The vampires argue with themselves, making Ren exclaim nervous about how things are getting heated, which makes Kikyu reply that vampires have their own factions too, also informing him that the first person to cut into the conversation is Sumeire's former teacher, leaving Sumeir at the brink of tears. As the vampires keep arguing, Tonorico cuts them, saying Ren came all the way to visit, so they should all take a deep breath, making them stand straight, and he informs them that the plan of action has been decided, which is allowing Ren and Sumeir to continue their relationship. Kikyu whispers to the principal that Ren is clearly not comfortable where he is, and they need to hurry, to which the principal concurs and apologizes. He smiles widely, telling them he awaits the results and thanks Ren for his time, which makes Kikyu bow to him, telling him they will take their leave now, while Sumeir's former teacher informs them of the principal having high hopes for them. He tells them they expect dazzling results from them and would welcome a chance to visit the site, which would be illuminating. This makes Dahlia shut him up, telling him he is annoying, which makes him respond that worthless students attract worthless teachers. Ren and Sumeir freaked out and hurriedly wanted to get out of there, while Kikyu told them not to worry. As they exit the school, Sumeir sighs, exclaiming how nervous she has been, while Kikyu comments that she did well, which makes Ren comment that there were some teachers that were tough, but thank God for the principal being an understanding man. This makes Kikyu look dearly at Ren, exclaiming how simple he is. She then tells him not to trust the principal too much. Suddenly, a bat informs them not to leave her behind, making a portal appear with a hand stretching forward, leaving Ren surprised. The vampire with the headphone from the school jumps out of the portal, taking Ren aback once again. She introduces herself as Mimosa, being in charge of technique development, and tells them to call her Mimo-chan. She explains on the matter on the ground that just like Kikyu was saying, it's too early to trust the principal, and proceeds to give him a rough explanation. The vampire world is classified into 3 categories of factions: the conservative faction, the salvation faction, and the revolutionary faction. She further explains that they fall under the salvation factor, and the 3 factors have their different functions. The conservative faction consists of the old folks who want to double down on how they have been doing things before, while the salvation faction is the cute ones who want to stop the eradication of weak vampires and restore the vampire world. And lastly, the revolutionary faction are called the dork, who wants to seize any form of opportunity in order to establish a regime whereby the vampires rule. She informs them that Sumeir's continued cohabitation was allowed due to their significant protest, making Ren ask curiously if the principal is from a different faction. She replies to him saying up until now the principal has taken a neutral stance when it comes to Sumeir-kun's case. He quickly comes to an understanding of our point of view. She thanks Sumeir for getting their point across, but is still worried that the principal left the dustbox alone, making her conclude that definitely something must be going on behind the scenes. This confuses Ren as she opens a portal, telling him to step in as it will be easier to just show him than explain. They teleported high up to the dustbox, making Ren exclaim how high they had come. Mimo-chan tells him to take a peep down, making Ren look down and ask if something is moving down there. Suddenly, a large number of horrible, hungry-looking vampires are seen trying to climb up the box, making Ren terrified and nervous, while Mimo-chan explains that this is the dust box, which is the prison where all the vampires who lost their place in the world end up. The condemned vampires are seen scratching, tugging, and biting their way up, as Mimo-chan further explains to a nervous Ren that after losing their mind from thirst, the vampires wait here for the rare scraps that are tossed to them, and under the current rules Sumeir will end up there one day, which the principal tacitly approves of. This leaves Sumeir nervous as Mimo-chan exclaims that a place like this shouldn't exist and should be removed. She finally announced she would be living with them as a record keeper, which Ren agrees to immediately and welcomes her. Dahlia challenges her if she also has it rough, which Mimo-chan declines, telling them she just feels it would be wrong for them to do as they please. Back home, Ren wonders how Sumeir is on the verge of meeting a bad fate like that, and she is still just a kid, while Sumeir peeks at him blankly. She suddenly hops up full of courage, telling Ren she will do her best and show everyone she can be a splendid vampire who is of big help to him. But she is cut off by Mimo-chan, telling her that is not what the test is about anymore, confusing Sumeir. Mimo-chan explains that whether Sumeir is useful or not, it is a more old-fashioned value, and what they are really looking for is for humans to understand that both vampires and humans can stay together peacefully. She further explains as she types on the computer that probably they can take it as both humans and vampires keep each other as pets, and they don't care if she is a bumbling dropout as much as we do that. He likes her. Mimo-chan calls out to Sumeir, telling her that her old teacher Yahello is a dyed-in-the-wool meritocratic conservative, and is sure that after Sumeir has studied with him for a long while, her sense of value has been unconsciously wrapped. Kakyu taps Momo-chan on the head, telling her she is going a little too extreme and is in no position to be Sumeir's educator, while Momo-chan exclaims that love will save the world. Ren pats Sumeir's head, telling her not to worry about him and that after all the difficult situation, she can let her hair down and have fun. Momo-chan exclaims how cooperative Ren is and requests to drink some fluid as proof of their friendship, which Ren agrees to, telling her to take just a little while. Dahlia wants to go first and is being called out by Momo-chan. They laughed loudly while Sumeir stared blankly, unable to act, and Kakyu stared at her in pity as the night went by. At Ren's workplace, as he taps on his computer, he exclaims, finishing the meeting documentation and going through the figures to confirm if they are in order. He realizes that some noise coming from under his desk, and he checks it out in surprise, only to find a bat, saying that the subject's daily activities are within the normal parameter, that his results are above average. He analyzes the voice and concludes it was Mimo-chan, which she agrees to. He looks around to avoid being caught and whispers what she was doing here, making her reply that it is her duty to make reports. He informs her that it's 10 in the morning, and vampires are normally asleep by this time. Mimo is seen working from home as she tells him she is something of the day, making him exclaim how great it is. As Ren gulps down his coffee drink, he thinks of Mimo observing him, so he decides not to let his guide down. Mimo-chan called out to him, telling him if he wanted to drink coffee, he should drink the substance in the bottle that she handed him, making him curious and asking what it was. She replies that it is the new and improved fluid-producing medicine, and she is very proud of this new product, so he should go ahead and drink it. He recalls and discovers that the last time was all her fault when he couldn't control himself. Ren is brought out of his thoughts when his coworker asks if something is wrong, making him sweat nervously. He fakes smiles and answers he is perfectly fine. His colleague walked over to his table and picked up the fluid-producing medicine, examined it closely and called it an energy drink, exclaiming how the design changes these days. He warns Ren not to drink too much of it as it is dangerous to his body, which Ren agrees, making Mimo offended by their being rude. Ren announces his arrival at home, tired and hungry, and he is told by Kikyu to wait a bit while Sumeir is making dinner. Sumeir is seen cooking as Kikyu warns of the fire being high, but at the end, she makes a burnt black kurokoje. She tearfully apologizes for ruining the food once again, but Ren cuts in that the food is fine and he can handle this much, trying not to make Sumeir feel bad. Dahlia romantically exclaims how sturdy humans are when it comes to food, while Mimo replies that they would be laying on the bed for 3 days if they ate something like that, while Sumeir stares blankly into the night. Later that night, Dahlia disturbs Mimo as she sleeps, while Kikyu reads a book, and Kikyu tells Dahlia she is going too far as she will wake sleeping Mimo up. As Ren sleeps, Sumeir is outside reminiscing about the day's event, and how she ruined it too. Just before dawn, Sumeir realized this and decided she needed to prepare breakfast. But when she went into the kitchen, she found out that all of the ingredients were finished as she used them up the previous night. She tells Kikyu and Dahlia that she needs to go to the shop to do some shopping, and Dahlia says to her that the sun is almost up, but Sumeir replies that the store is down the road. Sumeir slams the door behind her while Kikyu stares blankly. As Sumeir runs through the hallway, Dahlia asks Kikyu if she wants her to keep an eye on Sumeir just in case, but Kikyu doesn't respond and just stares blankly. In the store, Sumeir looks around and decides to make sunny side-up eggs for breakfast. She recalls how unprofessional she is at breaking the egg because the yolks will end up everywhere looking messy, but then also remembers that Ren doesn't mind how the food looks. He eats the food and also compliments her for her good cooking skills. She concludes that if he is fine with her constant mess-up, then it means he does not expect anything different from her at the end of the day. Ren wakes up from the house, but as he went out to ask what was wrong, Mimo screamed that everything was bad. She exclaims that Sumeir isn't back from shopping, making Ren nervous, and tries to contemplate what will happen if she gets hit by the sun directly, while Mimo completes it, that she will burn to a crisp and something like that cannot be kept in the report, making Ren decide to go look for her. Kikyu hands him a parasol to take along with him and keep Sumeir safe at all costs, which Renan collects and heads out running all through in search of Sumeir. Meanwhile, Sumeir is seen sitting under a bridge. Ren is seen looking everywhere for Sumeir, but cannot find her anywhere as he exclaims where she could be. He recalls Dahlia telling him she was in this area, but the smell of her fades little by little because of the sunlight, so he can't find her anywhere and there is still more ground to cover. A worried little child called out his mom's attention towards Ren, asking her why the man was carrying an umbrella under the sun, making Ren nervous. He stared at the umbrella, While in search of Sumeir, he felt a note wrapped on the umbrella Kikyu gave him. When he reads through, he is informed not to be scared and to calm down, making him sigh. He proceeds reading, and he is informed that Sumeir can take care of herself as she survived a long time before she met him, so he doesn't need to worry. He is further informed that Sumeir might have something she needs to get off her chest, and it may be something she can't express in front of everyone. The note finally begged him to listen to whatever she had to say. After a while of searching, he found her sitting under the bridge crying alone. He observed her for a while and finally went to sit beside her. He nervously tells her sorry and why she has been holding something in that he never noticed. She squeezed her arms tightly, replying to him to tell her if it was okay with him. She raises her head in tears as he looks on at her. She reminisces on how he saved her when she ran away from the vampire world and how she wanted to repay his kindness, how she wanted him to expect great things from her, how she wanted him to count on her, but all she did was to mess up over and over again, and he did expect anything from her, making her wonder if he found her very existence a nuisance. Still crying, she recalls her situation being a mission, and how she will keep having these miserable thoughts. She stares in tears, wishing she could disappear. Ren stares blankly and stands up, ignoring all her rants, telling her it's a sunny day and it has been a while since they were out together. He then requests they go for a walk, making Sumeir glow brightly in confusion, while Ren stretches his hand, telling her he has a parasol and everything. He then wraps Sumeir up with a towel while exclaiming how worried he was about the reason for his heavy-duty gear. He carried her under the parasol as people stared at them. The little boy from previously exclaims how they are making Sumeir comments that they are standing out quite a bit, which Ren responds to not be a problem. Ren thanks her for talking to him and that he now understands how she feels. He explains that he thought that just laughing off her mistakes would make things easier for her, instead he was hurting her, and he is deeply sorry about it. He further explains that he wants her to always remember something, that these days everyone everywhere is desperately running the rat race, including himself, of course, and at the center of it all he is being saved by her innocent warmth, and he will really love it if she stays by him. He explains that they will work hard to change things that are not working, thereby requesting her to stay with him. He cuts in instantly, saying forget it. This kind of talk is out of character for him, making Sumeir laugh, replying that she will work hard too. He reminds them that they haven't had breakfast yet, and she replies that they should go get a few eggs on their way home, and she feels she can fry a bunch of sunny-side-up eggs. He comments that he will expect great things from her. At home, meanwhile, Mimo-chan exclaims happily that Ren found Sumeir and is almost back home, while Dahlia sniffs their presence with her nose and agrees to the claim, while Kikyu tells them they have to think of other things. Sumeir is seen walking happily with Ren through the hallway after returning from the store. While returning home from work, he talks to himself, saying he thinks he is beaten and always confident in his stamina, but he guesses he is not young anymore and time has passed. As he walks to the door, it opens, surprising him, and Sumeir welcomes him home. Sumeir helps him take off his jacket as she asks him if he has overtime again, and he replies that overtime is one of the basic building blocks of their company. She sympathizes with him, exclaims what a rat race it is, and tells him the human world is one of the toughest places to live in. She suddenly springs up, telling him it is her job to support him, and he shouldn't hesitate to rely on her. She hugs him as they walk in the house together, while she asks him which would he like to do first, bath or dinner, making Ren reply he would go to the bathtub first. Ren explains that Sumeir has grown in a lot of ways since the previous times when both household work and cooking were epic failures, but now she has improved and it is almost like she is a different person. He explains that all thanks to Kikyu and the company. However, more than anything else, it came from Sumeir's incredible efforts. He also came to rely on Sumeir without hesitation after being ground down every day by life he had actually forgotten, and relying on your partner is a form of kindness. She eagerly asks Ren how the food was, and when he replies that it was tasty, she laughs playfully, while Ren exclaims that she hasn't grown out of this particular habit. She winks at him, asking if she can have her meal as well, which Ren agrees to. She massages his shoulders and tells him to relax as she will drink from there, while Ren continues in thought about how overjoyed he is that Sumeir is grown, but something bothers him privately. He relaxes his body as she gulps down fluid from him and exclaims how yummy he is. He explains that before it felt like playing with an innocent girl, but now that she has grown into a woman, it feels a bit shameful. Sumeir starts to feel Ren's heartbeat pick up as she hugs him, but he replies nervously that it was nothing. Just then, Kikyu and Dahlia come in, apologizing for coming later than they arranged, while Sumeir welcomes them. But Mimo-chan exclaims that it went about as badly as expected, making Ren ask what happened. She explains that Sumeir's former teacher has raised an alarm for Sumeir and Ren's cohabitation interspecies test. Kikyu intervenes to cut the story short. The three instructors have been ordered to withdraw. Ren is confused as Mimo-chan quotes Sumeir's former teacher, saying, "My, what a meaningful test with all three instructors constantly fretting over them. I must say I'm rather amazed you've managed to keep up such a shameful display for so long." This makes Ren nervous, and Dahlia says bad things to him, but she ends up telling them that they can now see the light at the end of the tunnel. Mimo-chan yells, exclaiming that if the interspecies cohabitation test can continue for a year, it would be considered a success and they won't be able to do much except give advice during that time. Taekyu inputs that he has a point, and even if the council did not set a deadline, they will be withdrawing on their own will. On that note, today will be the last day they will act as her mentors, and she should be able to handle it from here onwards. While Sumeir's eyes were wide in expectations, Sumeir screams that she will definitely succeed and will prove all those who made fun of her wrong. And Kikyu concurs with her. Dahlia comments that her spirit is as huge as her body. She replies that she is a growing girl. Mimichan looks at Sumeir and exclaims when Sumeir grows taller than her, while Kikyu tells her she is growing and it is like watching a human grow. Later that night, they all left, telling Sumeir to take care and send daily reports. Sumeir hugs Ren, exclaiming they haven't had time alone since they met. She smiles widely and tells Ren that they should both work hard, and he agrees with her. Ren explains that the cohabitation test from her onward is the real deal. In the vampire world, Yahello is seen approaching two students. He announced to them that they have permission to leave the ground floor by sundown tomorrow, and there is no need for them to worry. Their duty is to carefully select potential human retainers, which they responded in the affirmative. He dismissed them as the bow, thanking him. When they were out of the school, one of the students with short hair exclaims happily about being finally free, while the other student with long hair agrees with her, but informs her that permission could still be revoked, so they need to keep their heads. This makes the short-haired student say she won't mess up and tell her partner that they should both head somewhere when the sun goes down tomorrow, which makes her partner inquire where they are going. The short-haired students evilly reply that they should go find the loser who got chased out of the academy and make her take a special test. Her partner pitied the girl who was chased and blamed it on the short-haired student for being the cause, to which she replied that she didn't do anything and the girl in question was weak. Her partner exclaimed how horrible the short-haired student was as proceeded into the human world. The short-haired student informs her partner to get ready, and she concurs in agreement. The following morning, Sumeir hits a cooking pan and spoon together, telling Ren to wake up. Ren, who was still deep in sleep, requested more time as she kept calling him to get up. This makes her think of what to do, and she gets an idea. She peeks under his blankets and creeps underneath, wriggling on him as she greets him once again. He suddenly jumps out of the bed cover, trembling. He tells her to pity his poor heart, and she asks if she surprised him that much. But rather than surprise, he said she was not a kid anymore, in a lot of different ways. She narrows her eyes and replies to Ren that he has been a little distant lately, making him fidget in deep sweat. She suddenly widens her eyes and yells, saying could it be he now wants a human partner after all these times. She falls to the ground in tears, saying he wasn't loyal to her and she is going to report it to Kikyu. He replies nervously that he wasn't disloyal to her, while she looks up to him wanting reaffirmation, which he assures her. Then she finally requests pets. He petted her and they reconciled. After bidding each other goodbye as Ren left for work, Sumeir proceeded to take a bath, brush her teeth, and sleep in the closet for a long while. When she wakes up, she cooks dinner while cleaning the house. When Ren got back home and she welcomed him, she told him she trusted him, but she studied human techniques in order to guard against any unloyalty, making Ren wonder why she is still on the topic. She explains that human men and women are attracted to each other for no reason, and sometimes seek each other out even if they already have another partner, which forces Ren to ask where she picked it from. She brings out a love affair quagmire which surprises Ren, and he asks if it is a manga. Sumeir opens the book and reads through. If you want a partner and do not want to lose them, all you have to do is lay claim, known as calling dibs. She grabs Ren's hands and continuously licks them, while telling him she has seen characters call dibs on stuff like this. But Ren is confused, wondering if she read the book properly, and tells her he doesn't think that is what the book means. She proceeds to tell him that according to the book, the most effective way to lick is mouth to mouth, which makes her proceed to lick Renny his mouth, making him terrified. Ren suddenly flees from her while she runs after him and inquires why he is running. She finally catches up with him and attempts to lick his mouth once again, but is cut short by the two vampire students. Sumeir is shocked as they attempt to come in through the portal. They entered successfully, and the short-haired student told her it's been a while since she went and disappeared, leaving them worried, and asked Sumeir how she had been, while Sumeir just stood with her eyes wide open in shock. Their appearance there was threatening to Sumeir as she stared at them. Ren was surprised to see them, so he asked Sumeir if she knew them, and she muttered Raspberry with her eyes still wide open in shock. She then explained that Raspberry was a bad girl and scared away tons of classmates, and she is all about succeeding at the expense of others. However, she causes disturbance in class and fits perfectly with Yahello. Few education style. Sumeir further tells Ren with a sad face that she targeted her, which makes Ren pet her on the head in understanding and asks of the second person beside Raspberry, and she answers that is the academy's top student and his name is Lotus-kun. He can do anything, to the extent of them calling him Yahello's masterpiece. Lotus heard Sumeir and said she was giving him too much credit, while Raspberry replied that their introduction was awfully different. Sumeir, with a mean look, asked if there was something they badly needed that made them sneak out of the academy, but Raspberry laughed and told her they did nothing of such. She told Sumeir they allowed them to pass, which made Sumeir's eyes open wide in surprise, so she asks if they passed all the academy's exams, which Raspberry confirms true. Raspberry moves closer and comes head-to-head with Sumeir, telling her she is happy all her years of hard work paid off and she only came to tell her all by herself so she doesn't get to hear it from someone else. But Sumeir is stunned. making Raspberry ask what the matter was, and if the cat got her tongue due to her surprised look. Raspberry tells Sumeir to put that issue aside and faces Ren, exclaiming how a little strange it is because they are there in the vampire world working themselves out and taking classes without a moment to catch their breaths. And they are drinking fluid bag rations, but here is Sumeir, who has been out the whole time drinking fresh fluid. She exclaims that it isn't fair, making Sumeir want to shed tears. She complains that should the runaway layer get the lion's share, but the rightful people who work hard get nothing. She narrows her eyes, saying of course no one would agree to that, and people will definitely talk bad about you behind your back. Lotus cautions Raspberry that she is going a bit far, but she pushes him and keeps saying that no one would acknowledge that the test was a success. This statement makes Lotus stare at her awfully while Sumeir is moved to tears. She throws the fluid bag ration at Sumeir's face, telling her to drink that from now on, while she takes the human fluid, and she is sure the human would be most delighted to get his fluid drunk by a superior vampire. She asks if Sumeir has a problem with that, and tells her to hurry and get out of the way, but is shocked when Sumeir stands up to her, saying she has a problem with it. She throws the fluid bag ration back to Raspberry while she walks up to her bravely and faces her, saying Ran is her partner and tells her to say what she wants about her, but she should keep her hands off him. Raspberry is amazed and laughs at Sumeir's comeback and tells her that she has grown some confidence since the last time they met. Raspberry hits Sumeir on the face, shocking Lotus and Ren. Raspberry laughs and tells Sumeir that she will have to take Ren from her by force. She is cut short by Sumeir, who rushes at her. They pushed each other toward the glass but were luckily saved by Lotus. They fought in midair and landed on the roof of a building. Raspberry draws her sword from the portal and asks Sumeir if she remembers the self-defense class they took together, as this scene was supposed to take her back. She exclaims how beating Sumeir was so much fun as she swings her sword at her, but Sumeir stands guard. She holds her wooden mop stick ready to fight back and hits back at Raspberry that she is not the same as she was back then. They both stare at themselves with wide, mean eyes. Raspberry gives Sumeir a spin kick. She exhales from the bruises she got from there, while Raspberry smiles as she is always easy. She kicks Sumeir in the stomach, making growls in pain. Meanwhile, Lotus carries Ren and flies to the fight scene. But as Ren sees them, he exclaims how bad things are going and that they should be stopped. Lotus replies to him that it is not safe to go where they are and that they should keep an eye on things from here. He tells Ren that they should be allowed to do as they please, because neither of them seems inclined to stop anytime soon, as he hands Ren his shoes, which leaves Ren to wonder whose side Lotus is on. The fight still continues as Raspberry pounces on Sumeir, who is totally unable to defend herself, while Raspberry laughs, telling her it is all over. As she jumps on her, Sumeir's stick breaks and she is left totally defenseless, while Raspberry pushes her, making her crash on the roof's ground. She then sits forcefully on Sumeir's stomach, making her cough out fluid. She then tells her that this is all because she puts on air and defies her, so she will have to punish Sumeir. She grabs Sumeir by the shirt, exclaiming how much the fluid she stored up from Ren for nourishment, and decides to take it from her. She bites into Sumeir's skin, drinking all the nourishment from her, making her look skinny as she screams in pain. Ren asks Lotus what she is doing, and Lotus answers him, saying Raspberry is drinking all the nourishment Sumeir stored up from drinking his fluid, while Sumeir is getting leaner as she wallows in pain. Lotus informs Ren that if all the nourishment were drunk up by Raspberry, Sumeir would be no more, which is also an action forbidden, and the situation is getting worse. Ren screams at Lotus to please take him over there, as he doesn't care how much of his fluid is drained. Lotus doesn't answer Ren and asks him what is so special about Sumeir that made him keep his life on the line for her to live. And they are both different from one another, like cat and mouse. Even in the vampire world, no one is incorrect if she is referred to as a dropout failure. Ren frowns at him, telling him none of that matters because they have had their good days and bad days, and it might sound cliche, but that is how bonds are formed. Lotus smiles and exclaims how splendid it was. He tells Ren that was what he came to hear him say. He then tells Ren that he will ensure Sumeir does not die, so they should continue to watch, leaving Ren with no choice but to comply. While Sumeir and Raspberry continue their fight, Lotus tells Ren that this is an important fight for Sumeir. While Sumeir is on the ground, almost at the end point, she mutters Ren's name and flashes back to their memories. She begs him to stay with him and pets her, and when he agrees they can live together. She remembers his laugh when they walk together and his smiles while muttering his name. Raspberry, with a wide smile on her face, tells Sumeir that Ren's fluid will be all hers. Full of rage, Sumeir kicks and pierces through Raspberry's stomach, coughing out fluid, shocking Ren. Lotus announces that Raspberry let her guard down. Sumeir twists Raspberry and pins her to the ground as she pounces on her and yells that she will never give Ren to one like her. Sumeir continuously punches Raspberry, turning the battle around. She then opens up her mouth, ready to drink Raspberry's fluid. Sumeir bends her neck as she says bad things to her, calling her bad things. But a carefree Sumeir bites and drinks Raspberry, who still calls her a dropout trash, telling Sumeir to let her go. Sumeir paid deaf ears and kept on biting Raspberry. Red is still in shock while Lotus smiles and says they should call it a night. Lotus comes into the scene while Raspberry wallows in pain. Raspberry makes her bats bring her sword while screaming how dare Sumeir do that to her, telling her she would pay for it. She screams to beat Sumeir, while her bats come closer with her sword. As Sumeir is about to be hit by the sword, she is saved by Lotus, who stops the sword, telling them that's enough, and tells Sumeir to let Raspberry off with these many injuries. Ren runs towards Sumeir, asking if she is okay while she calls out to him. A sword was pointed at Lotus as someone called out to him. It was no other person than Raspberry, who asked him why he stopped her sword, and asked him if he wanted to go up too. Ren tries to hold Sumeir back from fighting, and she is also trying to defend him by telling him to get back to her. Lotus announces that they will need to end their fun here, or the nice lady in hiding will send their head flying. He says this as he points while Raspberry turns to see the lady in hiding behind a tank, exclaims, asking if he really noticed her. She comes out of hiding and beholds it as Dahlia, as she smiles and praises Lotus for a good job because she erased her presence too. While Sumeir calls out to her, Raspberry's eyes grow wide as she discovers Dahlia has the crow and thinks of her being the lumberjack. Raspberry wonders why Dahlia was there and also that she could have been beaten up for real if she messed up. Lotus apologizes for the commotions and tells Dahlia that Sumeir and Raspberry got a little heated after seeing each other again after so long, while Sumeir just stares nervously. Dahlia thinks about it for a moment, then finally agrees it is a child. Ren's fighting and taps Raspberry on the head with her sword, telling her she got pep, leaving Raspberry speechless. Dahlia leans closer to Raspberry, smiling widely, and tells her there is not going to be a next time. Raspberry concurs, calling Dahlia bad news in her thoughts. Raspberry announces their dismissal, and Lotus agrees with her as they proceed to the portal. But Lotus suddenly stops midway and calls out to Sumeir and wishes her good luck on the interspecies cohabitation test. He then tells her people to say all kinds of things about the test, but he thinks it is a good test, which leaves Sumeir looking confused. She agrees with him as she thinks of that being the first time a classmate has ever encouraged her. Lotus bids her goodbye as he departs through the portal with Raspberry. Always smiling, Dahlia asks Sumeir if she made a new friend, which confuses Sumeir about the question. Dahlia pats Sumeir on the head and tells her to keep up the good work, but try not to cause a noise, as she can't protect her every time, making Sumeir apologize. Dahlia flies in thin air as she exclaims how busy she is, as she is in charge of keeping the peace, which isn't always all fun. Ren hears this and imagines that being her job and concludes within himself that it doesn't fit her. Sumeir exclaims happily about showing Raspberry a thing or two and tells Ren she is going to sleep like a log tonight, which Ren totally agrees with her. He then wraps her with his jacket, telling her to cover up with that first as he can't keep his eyes from wandering. Sumeir turns and informs Ren there are commotions coming from below, which he turns to look. They see the cops' car below and throngs of people below. They became afraid, knowing fully well that someone called in the cops. They decide to get out of there as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Lotus thanks goodness Dahlia let Raspberry go as he introduces her as the Patchwork. Dahlia makes Raspberry realize, and she thanks her goodness Lotus noticed her. If not, she would be no more. Raspberry still insists on slaughtering Sumeir after all this, as she further promises to make her realize nice and slow and then tear her head off, but exclaims that she first needs to heal the wound she incurred. She tries to grab her fluid pack from the portal but can't find it, making her wonder where she could have left it. She then tries to remember, but meanwhile, at Ren's house, Sumeir finds Raspberry's fluid pack and slurps it all down as she exclaims how good she feels. She suddenly belches and exclaims that it is gross as she complains of her taste buds being spoiled by Ren's fluid, and now she has a body that can't be satisfied by fluid packs. She hugs Ren, telling him to take responsibility, which he does instantly, calling it his fault. Meanwhile, Raspberry tries to take Lotus's fluid pack, but he refuses to give her, and she blames him for leaving her fluid pack behind, which he considers a wild allegation. Raspberry and Lotus sat on the roof and discussed how to get a retainer. Okay, then let's go and pick our retainer, Raspberry said, and she imagined mocking Sumeir with her high-spec retainer, while she said she would be the one to pick the cream of the crop and go rub that stinks the nose in it, which Lotus tells her to give up trying to make Sumeir realize. She responds that she has a rotten personality, which Lotus confirms to be true. Raspberry tells Lotus that if humans have one thing going on for them, it is numbers. With this, how would they be able to pick their own retainer? She glances and asks Lotus how would he go about picking retainers, wanting to see what he would do. He smiles at her and replies indeed. He then points at a narrow road and tells Raspberry that not too many humans pass through, which Raspberry also sees and agrees with him. Lotus tells her they should go through the road and the first human they find on this road will be their retainers. Raspberry looked at him in shock and told him he needed a doctor to check his head, to which Lotus replied and said that was a horrible thing to say. She questions him why he is going through all the backbreaking effort to get here and then leave it to luck at the most crucial point, and if their teacher Yahello was here he would cry, which makes him reply that's what makes it fun. He explains that he found doing as he was told, studying hard and getting good grades is quite a bore, and surely it will be fine if they had a bit of fun. Lotus tells her that for what it's worth, he thinks she is better off leaving this to chance, and she asks him why that is. He sees Sumeir's story as an example, telling her she wants to be on equal feet with Sumeir, who also got her partner through luck. Her eyes glowed, hearing that she then agreed to do it while showing her sharp teeth. Raspberry exclaimed, teaching Sumeir a lesson on how much of a difference there is between them. They both get down to the road, and Raspberry points at the road, telling Lotus that they will go straight down this road if he is a male. He is hers, and if she is a female, she will be his retainer. Lotus agrees with her, but she says that she doesn't want to hear any whining later about him having regrets. They left in search of a retainer as the night deepened. From a tall building, a voice is heard apologizing for the mess and trying to confirm if the other party is really a vampire. The voice says that it doesn't entertain guests and also tries to inquire if the fellow is really a vampire or not. A man is seen asking the questions. He points at his arm asking if the vampire could drink fluid from around there. His name is Amari Yuchi, and he tells the vampire to be gentle with him. Raspberry was the said vampire, and she looked at him in regret. She proceeds to bite and drink his fluid while thinking her pride won't allow her to go back as Amari groans from pain, and she tells him to stop making weird noises. Raspberry talks to herself that this is a living, breathing human whose fluid is so delicious that fluid pack ration can't even compare, and she could put up with this pairing as long as she could continue to drink it. He comments romantically that her teeth are so smooth and her lips are so soft while she belches in satisfaction. He stares at her full of love as he sweats nervously and asks if vampires do wear some indecent outfit, while she sits comfortably and replies that she made the dress herself, which is said to have captivated the hearts of many men, and it is also based on a bunny girl motif. She explains that for vampires, the easier the outfit can draw in humans, the better. He stares at her waist side and comments it is a marvelous choice. Those body lines highlighting those proportions are the best combination, and he can feel the sense of divinity from it. She replies to him, calling him a lucky man, saying there are no vampires in existence, as captivating as she is. Amari happily exclaims of certainly getting to see something nice. And as a matter of fact, he has always dreamed of going to a bunny girl and seeing some bunny girls up and close and personal. However, he never had either the friends to accompany him there or the money to fund such an expedition. So in all honesty, he had all but given up on this dream of him, and now it's clear that the attractive power of the rear end of the bunny girl saved from the depth of the internet are worlds apart from the same of a bunny girl. A bored Raspberry exclaims him having such long lines. Amari agrees with her while he bends down in search of something in his wardrobe, saying if she is getting results with the bunny girl suit, then he has that. He brought out a school swimsuit, handing it over to her while she just stared at him surprised. He kneels down, telling her the image of the girls he saw at the school pool wearing their swimsuits is pictured into his mind, and he ahead to bows to her, telling her he would like to see the sight again. Close enough that he could reach out and touch the skin exposed wouldn't be much different from what she is wearing now. She just stares at him continuously, while he turns himself upside down, begging her as this is his wish for a lifetime. She dips her hand in the portal while he looks in confusion and brings out a knife, making him confused. She opens it, and he exclaims that it is so ornately decorated and calls it a bejeweled sword. He receives the sword from her happily and exclaims that he has never laid eyes on anything like this before, and asks if this proof of their covenant, finally saying thank you to her. Raspberry stares at him with mean eyes and finally speaks out, saying he is an abnormal creature, and he sickens her. She tells him to use that sword to hit himself and end his miserable self, making him ask if it was for beating himself, but she cuts him short by hitting on his head while he begs her and tells her if she wears it he will lick her boot until they shine. She tells him to get away while he screams in pain from her legs on his head. He tells her it feels good while she sighs. Nights later, Kikyu visits Ren's house through the portal and greets Sumeir and Ren. She tells them she is performing a health check and asks if they are both right, which they respond affirmatively. She told them meddling in their businesses is not ideal and she can be crossed by the higher-ups, but a little gossip will do. She tells them she heard through the grapevine that Raspberry has gotten herself a retainer close to them. Sumeir was shocked and tried to reconfirm when she heard this. She becomes angry and says she is sure Raspberry is trying to get inside her skin, and one very day she will barge in uninvited. Ren is bothered about the neighborhood. If they find out who they are, one way or the other, they will have to move away, while Sumeir cuts in, telling him not to worry, and she flashes a knife, telling him the next time she sees Raspberry she will remove her head without failing, while Ren remarks how alarming it is. She brings out a cleaver and meat mallet, saying she felt there was going to be a fight, so she prepared herself for it, while Ren exclaims that she is going all out. Sumeir exclaims that Raspberry should bring it on wherever she is, while Kikyu stands there wondering if they will be alright and recalls the other student. Lotus is seen in a big dining room and exclaims that the already prepared food should do it. He walks into the portal with the food and comes out to a room and checks, but the room looks empty. He checked and found someone, as he exclaimed that was where the person was hiding. He told the person they must be hungry, and he brought food. He calls the person his retainer as her shadow appears peeking at him. It was a dirty young girl with scattered hair whose stomach was growling. She looks at him hungrily with her wide eyes. She tells him she doesn't have any money, while Lotus smiles, telling her there's no need to pay. She sits as she stares at the food, ready to dive in. She immediately chomps on it and is wowed by the delicacy. Lotus smiles, staring at her as she munches the food. He apologized for taking her out of her house like that because there was no electricity and gas at her apartment as they were cut off, which was also unsanitary, and he promised to do something about it the next day, so she should stay in the hotel for today. He stares at her as she drinks from the cup. Her name is Kirishima Rosario and she is 9 years old. Her mother, who she lives alone, left home for weeks and hasn't returned, and with no one to rely on, she was living under a vending machine where Lotus found her. He thinks her mother might suddenly return and there might be some risks that people around might get suspicious of him, but he has already decided she will be his retainer. She talks to her doll while he announces that he prepared a bath for her and also told her he would do her laundry so she should put her clothes in the basket. He dries her hair after bathing and tells her she looks more beautiful as she sits on the bed. He tells her she better hurry to bed, as she is going to attend school the next day as he prepares her bed. He feels she is still wary of him, so he will have to break through that step by step. As she went to bed, she called out to him and told him if it was not too much trouble, she might want breakfast too, which made him smile and approve her request. She exclaims happily and informs her to turn off the lights as he bids her good night. Raspberry visits Lotus through the portal, and Lotus is surprised to see her. They went to the roof and she asked how he was, to which he replied that he was still taking things one step at a time. She told him that taking a small child is not profitable, because you can't drink her fluid until the next 6 years, due to the fact that she is still a child. She continues that the cost of performance is tragic and she won't make any form of retainer for him, while he just smiles speechless. Raspberry makes fun of him, telling him how sorry she is for him and he should go down on his knees and beg for her to give him a do-over. He asks her if she has heard of home gardening, which she replies is when humans grow vegetables for fun, which he approves to be correct. He explains that it is more efficient than just buying it from a nearby store, but they say the time and effort spent growing it allows you to experience the new level of deliciousness. He tells her it's the same as human fluid and she might become a big deal beyond their expectations, leaving her speechless with her wide stare. He smiles, saying there is something special about her and he is beginning to enjoy it, while Raspberry replies that he is so cheery, which is totally unlike him and it is gross. She pats his back, bidding him the best of luck, which he responds by bidding her the same. Meanwhile, Rosario sleeps peacefully, dreaming of a real cake. The following morning, Kirishima had pancakes for breakfast, and she exclaimed it was a real-life pancake. Lotus helped comb her hair and wore her clean clothes, which she perceived and thought of them smelling nice, as it had been so long since she wore clean clothes. He told her with her hair packed up she could see her pretty self. Lotus asks her to give him her toy so he can hold onto it for her, but she ignores him and puts the doll in her school bag while he just smiles at her. In her school, one of her mates asks her if she took a bath before coming, and she looks sad. Others laugh at her, but she smiles to herself. During lunch, food is being tossed and thrown at her. They say bad things to her and she is moved to tears. At Rosario's home, she exclaims how sparkling the apartment is, while he replies that he was able to finish cleaning it in time. He sees her looking around and asks if she is looking for something. She confirms she is looking for her bear Hana-chan's house, which she put there. He brings out a doll house and asks if that was it, which she confirms to be her doll's house and tells him she made it at school during craft time. He tells him it seemed rather important to stash it away like that, so he kept it aside. He comments it to be wonderful as he hands it to her, while she requests a bath and kitchen for it too. He tells her to make use of the boxes he found while cleaning the apartment, and she is wowed by the sight. Raspberry peeks at Lotus through the portal, who was helping Rosario build her doll's house. They meet on the rooftop and she tells him how disappointed she is. She says Lotus, who was the very picture of excellence at the academy, is reduced to playing house with a kid, while Lotus smiles at her speechless. As Kirishima walks into the classroom, her classmates laugh at her while she goes to take her seat at the back of the class. Lotus welcomes her from school and asks if she had fun, which she denies, and he asks if something happened. She looks down, saying everyone makes fun of her, saying she stinks. He hugs her, assuring her that she doesn't stink, while she responds that she has taken her bath lately, and they have been saying so ever before she met him. He told her they should go get a better soap that will make her smell nice, which she will like. As they walk to the store, he told her they should get some nice smelling things like shampoo and body wash, and also some nice dresses. They got to the store and did their shopping. After sports activities in school, she visits the library and reads a book about Monsters Encyclopedia. At home, she asks him if he does drink fluid, which he confirms, and inquires that she knows a lot. She stretches her hand to him and asks him if he is going to drink her fluid, making him thank her and tell her she is still a child and he will have some when she gets a little bigger. She asks how big she needs to be, and he replies that when she is 16 years old, she exclaims that it is still 7 years away and that if he can just drink a small amount of her fluid, she would be a bit fine. He tells her the thought alone makes him more than happy, while she covers her hands up as he declines. Lotus and Raspberry meet on the roof and she tells him it would be fine if he just had a taste and about once a month wouldn't hurt her. But Lotus bluntly refuses and tells her he has to savor the time it takes to become delicious, which makes her reply that he is the perfect picture of disciple. He went back into the house to meet her to teach her how to file her nails and cut them. In school during lunch, one of her classmates wants to share his carrot and mushrooms with her, but she refuses, telling him she doesn't need it, and thanks him. The rest of her classmates were surprised at her new behavior. As she sits alone, they gossip about her strange attitude and how she feels like she is more adult or maybe pretty. They continue gossiping about her smelling different while she thinks of Lotus and how she feels comfortable with him. She wants to be useful to him, but she is still a child and she can't do anything. She exclaims that she can't wait until she is an adult and she can't wait for Lotus to eat her. She sits calmly while her classmates peek at her from the entrance while she continues in her thoughts. Amari announces his arrival back home. Raspberry, who is dying of fluid, yells at him for coming late, and that she is in need of her daily dosage of human fluid. Amari is in tears as he complains he doesn't want to go to work again. He rolls on the floor like a kid and screams about quitting, and he just wants to sit at home and watch his anime backlog and get a microtransaction in his game until all his savings are used up. She stares at him furiously and walks up to him asking what the problem is. He tells her to listen as he cries, explaining to her that his boss and a client are giving him serious issues and no one is helping him out, so he wants to quit the job. Raspberry tells him that he shouldn't be a baby and man up. Definitely, it is his fault, that is why he is to be blamed. She tells him no matter what, one must survive anything in this life and that crying and whining won't solve anything, so he should just get it together and put in more effort. She tells him that there are many paths to victory because she has no use for losers. He cries profusely, rolling on the floor, as he begs her not to leave him in his condition. She should hug him because he can't add more effort to work. Raspberry had no other option than to help him out. She went in search of something. She found it and told him he had to put more effort for a month. And if he could do that, she showed him the school swimsuit he had given her previously, and told him she would wear it for him as his reward. He immediately gathered courage, and out of excitement, he said he would give them hell while she exclaimed that it was easy. He tells her in the morning he will head to work and set all things in place. She thinks that if getting him to be motivated is just by wearing a dress for him, then it is no big deal. She asked him for her daily dose of fluid, which he gave her. She asked him if he had dinner already, and he told her no because he was stressed and was not really hungry, so he would be fine not eating. But she insisted that he needed to eat properly in order to replace the fluid taken from him. If not, he won't last long. She then asks that if he is no more, where will she get her fluid from? She opens his fridge, which is empty, as she calls his attention to it, while he replies that all that is there is soda and soy sauce. Raspberry thinks that motivating him will help her get more delicious fluid from him, and if she properly manages him, it might become something truly. She announces that from then on, she will cook him dinner, so they should go get some groceries. She dresses cutely as they walk to the store. As they walk, she asks why he has been acting different for a while, to which he responds that he is walking down the street with a gorgeous woman by his side. He tells her that he is feeling like a superstar, making her realize and reply that they are standing out, so he should do it like this. They go to the neighboring supermarket, and she tells him to get what they need at the store and go home. She tells him he is an unhealthy person, so he should eat a lot of meat because if he grows larger, his amount of fluid will grow too. But he declines, saying it is not that he doesn't like meat, but he doesn't want that much. She gives him a condition that if he puts on 5 kilos, she will bathe him in the swimsuit. This made him suddenly energetic, wanting to eat more meat, while Raspberry exclaims of getting a hang of how to handle him. As she shops, she says she is impressed by how humans are to have this system that gives them easy access to food, and realizes this is why they prosper so much. Someone bumps into her and apologizes as she asks the person why they don't watch where they go, only to realize it was Sumeir. They stare at each other and ask each other what they are doing there. Ren catches up to Sumeir and asks why Raspberry is there, while Amari notices something. He compares the size of Sumeir's confidence to that of Raspberry, and he exclaims that it can cause inflation, as he calls it a monster memory battle. While Sumeir and Raspberry stare at themselves heatedly, Amari goes in between them, introduces himself to Sumeir, and asks her if he can slide in between them. Ren stands there speechless as he stares at both of them, about to cause a scene in the supermarket, and wonders what the hell is going on. A few years ago in the vampire world, Lotus is seen walking alone through the hallway of the academy when Raspberry meets him and what he is up to. He tells her that he just borrowed human film from the reference room, and she replies that he finds so much joy studying culture which will not come out in the test. And here she is cramming like crazy. She tells him it's perfect timing as she is about to take a break, so she will keep him company. While seeing the movie, when it got to the rifle part, she identified it as a rifle and said they got a taste of it in class the other day, and she likes the 5.56mm rounds. They punch right through you, so they are easy to regenerate from. They kept on watching the movie. She licks her finger there before commenting on what would he gain from rescuing her because she doesn't have anything to offer him in skills. He could find another girl, but Lotus disagrees and explains to her that she is seen as the only one who has gotten close to his wounded heart without her. His heart would crumble away to pieces. Raspberry stares at him in disbelief and asks if they are talking philosophy, but he denies it. He tells her he is aware that vampires only gain the trust of humans for their personal use, and it is also important to understand the heart of humans. She stares at him and comments that he is a very smart person, but sometimes he says the most messed up stuff. They continue seeing the movie, and the movie Raspberry comments when they start sharing the love that it is so sticky, while Lotus replies that their urge to produce is stronger than vampires. Kurashima screams at Lotus because he is lost in thought, bringing him back to reality. He asks what the matter is, and she comments that he is really good at cooking. He thanks her for liking his cooking, while she makes a request that he teach her how to cook, as it would be nice if she could cook. He grins and accepts her request, telling her she is very hardworking. She hops happily, so he announces that they will cook the dinner for the next day together. So they should go to the store to get ingredients for the food. As they walk to the store, Lotus thinks about suspecting that he is getting connected to Rosario. As they spend time together and his desire to protect her is increasing, So he discovers that this is how it is with Sumeir and Ren, and this is not, but it isn't valuable, by the Academy's educator who said allowing your retainer into your heart can lead to damage. He questions if there are disadvantages that outweigh the advantages of fostering such a bond. He concludes that finding it out is all part of the fun. He announces their arrival at the store and asks what she wants to cook, to which she tells him hamburger steak. He smiles, telling her it sounds good, and they will need to head to the meat aisle first. Lotus walks in on Raspberry and Sumeir faces them heatedly. He smiles and asks what they are doing, catching them by surprise. He asked them if they were going to cause trouble in the presence of humans, and Raspberry denied that they just ran into each other. Amari is knocked out with multiple boils on his head after being whacked by Raspberry, while Ren confirms they ran into each other and tells them to try and get things through this peacefully, which Sumeir angrily replies that it would be the best thing to do. Lotus then tells them to go for the shopping that they came for, but unfortunately, again they picked up the same meat pack. They both sighed as they dragged the meat pack with each other. Lotus saw them argue with each other over the meat pack and asked if they were doing this on purpose. Someone noticed them and asked if they were fighting in the store, while Lotus brought an idea that they settle it another way, which made them turn to him. He takes them all to the Vampire's Academy and suggests a cook-off. At the Academy's cooking laboratory, he tells them the theme is a hamburger steak and Rosario will be the impartial referee, and she asks if she is good enough. Both Sumeir and Raspberry agree to the challenge, while Lotus whispers to Rosario that they should see if they can learn one or two from them, which she agrees to. Amari wakes up asking where they are, while Ren answers that where they are doesn't seem life-threatening, but the competition isn't going to end smoothly. As both Sumeir and Raspberry prepare for battle, Lotus tells them the hamburger steak cook-off is about to begin, and whoever satisfies the judge Rosario will be declared the winner, while Raspberry says she is going to say bad things to Sumeir and show everyone how bad she is, which makes Sumeir replies her saying a woman like her has never cooked, not even outside the classroom. They both laughed at each other and Sumeir warned to make a hamburger out of Raspberry, while Lotus asked if they were actually getting along. He hit the bell telling them to start. Raspberry grabs her ingredients as she warns them to crush Sumeir, making Ren shocked and commenting she is cooking like a professional. She asks Sumeir if that's how she cooks, but he replies that he hasn't had the chance to have her cook for him yet, which Ren apologizes for. One of Raspberry's specialties is cooking, and she is very good at it, and her skills are so great that she matches Lotus. Sumeir stares at Raspberry and says she has improved and is better than ever. Sumeir recalls the kind of hell Raspberry put her through and remembers her being in trouble like yesterday. She makes up her mind to win the cooking competition no matter what and says bad things to her in front of everyone. She looks determined. Kirishima salivates and talks to her doll about what kind of hamburger the two ladies are going to make, as she can't wait. Sumeir mixes the steaks. When she looks at Raspberry, which is almost done, she feels pained but focuses back on doing her best. Raspberry slams the hamburger steak in front of Rosario, announcing that she's done. Rosario sees the steak and says it looks delicious. Amari and Ren are amazed at the level of perfection the steak came out with, and Amari said it looks like what they sell at the restaurant. Raspberry pushes some of the steak into Rosario's mouth, telling her to eat up. When Rosario catches her breath, she comments saying it melted away in her mouth. The meat and the sauce combine together, making it yummy. Raspberry proudly exclaims that it is yummy, while nervous Ren thinks it will be hard for Sumeir to beat. Sumeir apologizes for keeping them waiting, while Raspberry asks if she is really done. She tells her this is the best way to make fun of the total garbage Sumeir worked hard to make, only for or to look back and is surprised. Sumeir cooked the steak in a grand style and said she was proud of it. Ren is shocked and exclaims that she cooked a kid's meal. Sumeir proceeds to add a flag with a doll face on the food, announcing the food comes with a flag, while Raspberry thinks of what purpose the flag serves in the food. Sumeir recalls and explains she used a children's menu reference she saw at the restaurant when she and Ren went there in order to study human society, and Ren confirms her claim to be true. Sumeir finally adds that her meal comes with her own handmade toy, while Ren replies that her level of reproducibility is really something. Raspberry comments that it is like a curveball that is covered with patches of low quality. When Rosario sees the hamburger, her eyes widen as she remembers when she was in her first grade when her mother was so happy and she took her to a restaurant to eat hamburger steak. She quickly ate it all up because it was delicious, which was the first and the last time she ate a hamburger at a restaurant, and this hamburger Sumeir made looks just like that. She prepares to taste the steak, and when she takes a bite, she thinks of it being tough, but the more she chews, the yummier it gets, and it is the same flavor from her memory. She points at Sumeir's steak, saying she likes her hamburger steak best. Sumeir was overjoyed as she jumped in excitement, while Raspberry was shocked and became angry. Lotus stares in disbelief while he thinks that Raspberry outclassed Sumeir every step away in terms of sheer ability, but Sumeir was focused on who was going to eat the food, which made her prevail, although a large part of it might have been dumb luck. Raspberry screams at Rosario, asking what part of Sumeir's steak was any good, and there isn't a single shred of artistry in the whole thing. Unknown to them, Yahello was watching everything above the building. He just stared speechless at them unnoticed. Raspberry is very furious at how she lost to Sumeir. She exclaims that she will not be a part of the farce anymore, and she storms out angrily. Rosario feels sad that Raspberry left, while Lotus calms her that everything is alright. Sumeir smiles and asks if she is finally the winner, to which Ren replies that it was a naturally enticing low-angle shot. Raspberry exclaimed what the hell that was as she felt very terrible not noticing Lotus's presence behind her. Lotus thinks of Raspberry being bent out of shape, and he will have to keep her company until she is feeling better. He stops midway and looks back when he hears Amari call out to Rosario. Amari points at Raspberry's steak, telling Rosario he is feeling hungry and asks if he can have Raspberry's hamburger steak, which he gives him the go-ahead to take, as she just ate to her full. Amari takes the steak and dashes past Lotus to meet Raspberry where she is. He tells an irritated Raspberry he got the hamburger steak she made while she replies that he should throw it away because it is worthless. He ignores her and sits beside her eating the steak, exclaiming it is yummy, while she angrily asks if he can hear her at all. He tells her that if he was the judge, she would have won for sure, while she replies that he is her retainer, which would hardly be fair. Raspberry is still angry, but she admits that the contest was fair and Sumeir had the chance of winning a single grain of sand, but still went ahead and pulled it off, which is what really infuriates her. Amari tells her that in life she can't win them all, making her scream at him that she doesn't want his platitude. She explains to him that the vampire world is very quick to separate those with ability from those without ability, and the losers are sent to the dust box. She explains that only the survivors will be allowed to pass their genes and leave proof of their existence to later generations. She tells him that is why vampires of recent years are all accomplished and beautiful men and women. While Amari thinks she is talking about herself, she explains that she is not a natural super genius like Lotus is, and in order to be the best she had to work herself to the bone. So even if they were just competing for fun, she can never come second to some runaway loser, and she has to prove that all her efforts were not in vain and claim victory. Amari thinks for some moments and finally tells Raspberry that how Sumeir did it might have been different, but he thinks she worked hard to beat her, making Raspberry's eyes widen in realization as she remembers the time she said bad things to Sumeir, telling her a worthless good-for-nothing like her is destined for the dust box. And if she doesn't want to end up there, she should show herself in front of a human and beg them to put her to good use, which Sumeir answers her bitterly to do as she has said. Raspberry kicks her again, asking her where her pride as a vampire is, telling her to pull it off if she can. She comes out of her thoughts and says she will let Sumeir have this victory just today, but she will never lose again. Lotus watches Raspberry and Amari from a distance, and he finally smiles, but he is called out to by his teacher, Yahello. Lotus asks his teacher what he owes the pleasure to, which his teacher asks if he has forgotten the basic rules of not allowing humans into their hearts. He condemns Lotus for selecting a baffling retainer and tells him not to give her any special training and even allow her to go blithely about her daily life. Rosario hears this but doesn't understand any of it. Yahello tells Lotus that no matter the result he hopes to gain, his recent action is a step too far. He tells Lotus he has witnessed those who open their hearts to humans become twisted and insane. He finally tells him not to allow himself to become complacent, and that he should also tell Raspberry the same, which Lotus agrees respectfully. Rosario asks Lotus what is happening, but he replies that it is nothing for her to worry about while Sumeir serves Ren mountain piles of hamburger steaks as Lotus and Rosario prepare to go home. The following day, Rosario calls Lotus. He answers asking what she wants, but she looks sad, fidgets, and stammers. She finally tells him it is nothing, and she is off to school, while he tells her to have a nice day. After she leaves, he notices the garbage can. He looks in the trash, noticing the unusual paper there, and takes it out. He checks it out. He discovers it is a parent-teacher conference held after 1:50 p.m. She looks outside to the shining sun through the curtains as he stands in the room. Lotus is seen teaching Rosario a circle problem whose centers are lined up together. As he explains further about how to solve the problem, she cuts him short, telling him the final answer to the summation, which he approves to be correct, and claps for her, telling her she is now caught up with all her classes. She suddenly looks sad, calls out to Lotus, and asks him to clear her doubt if truly vampires can't go out during the day, which he confirms, saying they absolutely cannot go out on sunny days. He further explains, citing an example of a human walking through a flaming house while it burned down, which makes her realize how it is. He inquired why she asked the question, but she pushed it off, saying she was just wondering. He comes back to reality, staring at the letter, realizing she asked because of the Parent and Teachers Day. He looks out, wondering that if he was to go, he would be risking his life moving under the ray of the sun, and he will also get noticed by many people. He smiles, thinking this isn't something a vampire like him can participate in. He places the letter back in the trash and thinks of baking her something nice like warm cookies and giving her a warm greeting when she gets home. He shuts the door behind him and decides to go to bed. He meets with Raspberry, who asks him to help her move some things the following day, which he agrees. He wears his night clothes and lays down on the bed. He looks at the time and recalls Rosario's sad face before she left for school, and it troubles him as he couldn't sleep. Meanwhile, at Rosario's school, she sits lonely as people chat about all sorts of things. She looks sad and thinks of not liking Parent-Teacher Day as her mom never attended for once. She looks at the parents and thinks of the students being nervous having their parents watch them, which wasn't the same for her. As she bows her head on the table unhappily, someone yells, asking whose dad that is. As she looks unhappy, they chatter about the man being too young for a dad and ask if he is a foreigner or if he is related to Kirishima, also known as Rosario. She looked up with a sad face as they chattered that her mom was a foreigner, so maybe one of her relatives came, making her think of not knowing any of her relatives and that they are just saying whatever comes into their heads. Lewis eventually shows up in front of Rosario's class with other parents. She was surprised to see him when the teacher announced the class was starting, telling them she knew they were excited their parents were here to visit, but they should all focus. Rosario becomes freaked out, wondering why Lotus is here, and recalls not telling him about it. She eventually smiles widely while Lotus smiles back at her, but deep down within him, he doesn't feel good. He feels wretched, like his body is going to crumble away. He recalls being able to get here by avoiding direct sunlight, but the reflected light still drains his stamina, and he is continuously regenerating using the fluid bag he got ready beforehand, but he really can't keep up. People whisper about him as he decides not to let the pain show and blend in with the humans. Unfortunately for him, the curtains of the school window open, making rays of sunshine into the classroom, attracting him and giving him bruises. He sweats profusely as he tries to hide his bruises, while Rosario becomes nervous too, like other students. The teacher draws the problem of circles on the board, asking who can solve it. Rosario looks at it and recalls it to be the exact problem Lotus taught her how to do. Every other student raises their hand, showing that they could solve the problem except Rosario. She looks at them, unhappy that they want to show their parents what they can do. She gradually lifts her hands too, deciding to also show Lotus what she can do. She raises her hands too in order to attempt the question, making Lotus, who is in pain, look in her direction. He then smiles at Rosario amidst his pains. After the school bell rings, Lotus is nowhere to be found. Someone asks where Rosario's relative went, while another person asks if they can perceive something burning. Raspberry wakes up from her sleep while Lotus apologizes for waking her, making her surprised to see him. She looks at him with disbelief. Lotus is in very bad shape as he tells her his eyes are burned out so he can't see where he is going, and asks if she has an extra fluid bag at hand. She rushes to feed him fluid as she says bad things to him, asking what he is doing. She gave all the fluid in the bag, but it was not close to being enough. She tells him to wait and not move as she rushes inside to get more fluid. Lotus, in his dying state, recalls the words of Yahello, saying he has witnessed the sight of those who open their hearts to humans becoming twisted and insane. He narrows his eyes weakly, wondering when the next parents and teacher day is, while Rosario walks home happily. After consuming multiple fluid bags, Lotus thanks Raspberry for helping him out, while she replies that he is welcome, but he owes her for this. He then asks her where she got all those bags from, which she replies that she got them off some kuhai in Lotus, and concludes on going to apologizing to them. She stretches his cheeks, telling him how amazing it is as there is no healing from burns like that, and he also looks like their sensei Yahello. She tells him a true ancestor returned like him is nothing to sneeze at, making him smile and reply that he feels his lifespan has been shortened. It is explained that the original vampire is said to have 3 tails, black conjunctiva, and other special features, and these traits appear sporadically in modern vampires. However, when they appear together, the one who possesses them is called the ancestor returned. Raspberry sits concerned and tells Lotus that she doesn't know what happened, but if there is something bothering him, he can talk to her, while he looks away from her and tells her maybe next time. She becomes furious and screams at him, telling him this is the part where he spills out. But he tells her he has to make snacks for Rosario, while she responds that she will help him and he should talk to her, and they argue continuously. At Ren's house, someone asks for permission to enter, which the Sumeir, who was cooking, is surprised to see. It was Minori, Ren's elder sister, who had just gotten married recently. Sumeir exclaims it's been a while since they saw, while Minori replies that she is as energetic as ever. Ren announces they ran into each other nearby, while Minori replies that she decided to drop by to see how he was doing. He asks her how married life is, to which she replies that she is too old to gush about being newlywed, and asks how he is doing, only for him to laugh, saying he is the same as always, and she concurs with him. Minori looks away, asking Ren to talk to him in private, while Ren asks what the matter is. They went outside to talk as Minori informed him that their father had fallen and was back to normal now, but he was really worried about Ren. She tells him she got married and the family is not going to fall apart, but it must bother their father, as a parent finally telling Ren to go and see him sometime soon, which Ren agrees to. She bids them goodbye as Sumeir responds to her and she leaves. Sumeir asks Ren if his father is worried about something surprising Ren, who confirms that she heard what they discussed. He explains to Sumeir that everyone around him is getting married and having kids while he is still a bachelor, so his father is worried if he is going to be alright, making Sumeir a bit confused. Sumeir apologizes to Ren, telling him it is because of her, but he denies it, and tells her he has not really been cut out for romance, which isn't Sumeir's fault, and he would just tell his father to give up on that issue, making Sumeir's eyes open wide in realization. The following day, Ren eats his dinner quietly while Sumeir peeks at him. Knowing the previous day's issue is still disturbing Ren as she eats quietly, which is unusual. During the night, he sits by the window quietly staring into the sky and doesn't sense Sumeir's presence behind him as she peeks. The following day, Sumeir studies her book on human psychology. She checks about marriage, staring closely and studying it, and exclaims after finding something attractive to her. When Ren gets back from work that day, he exclaims how stressed he is, while she calls out to him, telling him she had a great idea. She points at herself and asks Ren why he doesn't marry her. Ren was swept off his feet by that. He was totally taken by surprise and left his mouth wide open. He then questions her if she knows what marriage is, which she agrees to and tells him it is when they become pairs. She tells him she thought about it, and it seems like as long as she is around, it would be difficult for him to marry a human female, so he should just marry her and she will put his parents at ease. Rin remains speechless after hearing this. She packs her hair well, brightly telling him if it will serve him, she will become a female human from that day. Ren cuts her this time, telling her it is crazy. She is a vampire, and leaving a lie will leave her unhappy. She replies that she will be happy, and confesses to Ren that she has loved him for a long time now. Sumeir kneels and calls out to Ren and asks him if he loves her. Ren becomes confused and terrified as he exclaims, "Oh man," into the night. Karashima Rosario shows her first semester's report card to Lotus and says she got a bunch of well done on it for performing well. Lotus gets happy after seeing her report card, so she starts to clap for her and asks if she did her best. Karashima says thanks to her and gives all the credit to her. Then Lotus says the girls who do their best deserve a reward and asks her what she would like as a gift. Karashima is wondering what she should choose, and Lotus tells her that she should take her time and think about it as summer vacation starts tomorrow. After all. Meanwhile, on the other side, on a train, Amari-kun cries and says that all these young kids are on summer vacation. Lucky them, and Raspberry tells him that whining about it is not going to make him feel any better. Then Amari tells her that his boss who rides him so hard has been out injured for a while now, and that alone makes him feel like he is on a summer vacation too. Raspberry says, "Don't," he says, "will wonders never cease?" And he says that he is getting off a set time today, so he is going to come home and binge through all that anime that has been piling up. Yakumo's parents are waiting for him and they say he should be here soon and he shouldn't bring his girlfriend to introduce her on such a rainy day. But Ren never thinks about things like that. Ren's dad says that, but he is still curious, and then finally Ren arrives with Sumeir. Sumeir has decided that it is fine to meet Ren's parents, as she has decided that she will live like a human from now on, and there is no reason she will not be able to get along with Ren-san's parents. She greets Ren's parents when she arrives at their place and tells them that she is the woman who has been dating Ren-san, and asks them to call her Sumeir. After meeting Ren's parents, when Sumeir comes back home, she says she was so nervous while meeting his parents. Then she asks Ren if she properly came across as a human female. And Ren tells her that she was perfect. Sumeir gives it her all to hold a conversation, and Ren says to her that his parents said she is a nice and energetic girl. After listening to this, Sumeir takes a breath of relief. Ren says it has been a while since he last saw his parents, so it was a relief for him too, as he is feeling refreshed right now. Ren smiles and Sumeir gets shocked that he finally smiled, and says all that hard work had a point after all. Ren says he feels bad that he is making her do something so ridiculous just so he can save a little face. Sumeir grinds and then says that he said it again. She is doing this because she wants to do it. Anyway, he said that it was too soon for them to get married, so that is why they established that they are doing this going out thing. She asks him if it is like a trial period, and then says hearing her relationship with Ren-san was still in the trial stage is a bit of a shock for her. Ren mentions it was out of the blue and his parents would have been surprised too, and she thinks that there wasn't any getting around then. Sumeir says now that she calmed down and reviewed their current situation, they are in the period directly preceding marriage called going out, so this going out, what exactly does it involve? Ren gets shocked after hearing this question from her, and then he asks her why don't they just keep getting along like they have up until now. Sumeir thinks he is playing dumb. There is no way he doesn't know about it either. Sumeir brings out the laptop and says Mimosa Mine Sensei taught her when she doesn't know anything, then she should look it up, and she types in about men and women going out activities. Sumeir learns about dates and trips, but she cannot go out during the daytime, so she adds nighttime to her search filter. She learns about sharing love at night and says that it sounds fun. She is a vampire, so she is not equipped to produce or create, but she would love to try sharing love. Ren tells her that a vampire and a human wouldn't produce anything, and she says she knows it is true, but there is always that honey trap thing. Ren asks what it is, and she says it is one of the techniques vampires use to get close to humans. They make themselves appear to be a member of the opposite gender and perform a sharing love procedure. Then she says Hello said it was a bad technique that reduced one's pride as a vampire, but he never went into detail about it. Therefore, she thinks it is perfect for them now to share love and says she will look up how to do it right now. She keeps looking for the procedure, and Ren tells her to wait and let's take things one step at a time. Both of them decide how to start the first step, and Sumeir says going out is surely hard, so they should think of something. In the dust box, inner sublevels, Raspberry says that they got orders to go and get another human, and Raspberry says those people don't know how to do it, and they say they drink, they dry. She says she cannot really help what kids do, and they decide to get over this quickly. The last human had some interesting stuff on them. Ren tells Sumeir about a farewell party at one of his senpai, who helped him out when he started being transferred, and she says he was talking about this before a drinking party. She says that she understands, but he has to understand that he cannot eat any foods with garlic in them, and Ren says he knows about it. Ren-san goes out to meet his friend, and Sumeir is home alone, and she keeps waiting for him. While staying up and waiting for Ren, she says it is so lonely on days when Ren-san stays out late, and she guesses he is also going to eat out. After waiting for a while, she gets the scent of Ren-san, so she runs towards the door because she thinks he is coming. When she opens the door, she is in shock because two guys are carrying Ren-san back home. Thus, she asks what is all this, and the guys tell her they kept giving him a wild number of drinks because it was their last time together, and Sumeir says sorry to them because they had to go out of their way. Both of the Kuhai take the leave, and Sumeir bids them a nice night. While walking in the corridor, Kuhai discusses that Ren has a girlfriend and they didn't know about it. They think she is really cute too, and they think Ren and Sumeir are really close too. Meanwhile, Sumeir is trying to wake Ren up, and she keeps trying, but he is not in his consciousness, so he keeps saying no abnormalities here. Sumeir replies that it doesn't seem like he is, and asks if he is this zoned out. Then there is nothing to do but put him to his bed. However, before that, he has to brush his teeth, because she is a vampire and teeth are their life, so they are absolutely very serious about brushing their teeth. She lays him on her lap and tells Ren to open his mouth so she can brush, but she cannot see his face because of the big confidence she has. While brushing his teeth, she says this is very hard and then tells him to spit it out because she is done brushing. She puts some water in, but Ren gulps all the water and she says that it counts as hydrating themselves. She then drags him to his bed and puts him on his bed, but then she remembers she hasn't had her dinner, the fluid drinking yet. She goes inside the bedsheet and opens Ren's shirt to drink some fluid, but Ren changes his side and she is stuck between his arms. Ren then says thanks to her while sleeping and she falls in love with him even more. The next morning, Ren opens his eyes and asks when he even gets home and says everything is spinning, he must be zoned out. He gets up and bids good morning to Sumeir and asks why is she all the way in that corner all alone. Ren then realizes that his clothes are all torn up and they are covered in fluid. Just as human love lies closer to sharing, vampire love lies closer to hunger. And when emotions run high, there are cases where hunger is no longer able to be suppressed. Sumeir thinks she is hurting Ren really badly, and she absolutely cannot tell him about that while Ren is thinking if he did something to her. Amari-kun shows his sales result to Raspberry excitedly that he is in the number 2 position in their sales team. But Raspberry calls him a loser and says he should get excited when he becomes number 1. Amari gets disappointed and he asks her not to say that and says what he is getting at is, he was thinking maybe he has just earned a reward. Raspberry says this is wrong, and she supposes that he has been working hard without any reward, and she says it might be about time to give him a little something. Amari gets excited after hearing this and he takes out an outfit from his closet saying he wants her to wear this. Raspberry asks him if this is all he ever asks for and asks if she is going to dress up like a doll now. She says it is not a big deal as long as it motivates him, and Amari finally finds the outfit for her to wear. Raspberry wears the outfit and says this is just plain old ladies loungewear. She asks him if he really wants this as a reward, and Amari says she doesn't get it at all. A girl wearing loungewear is a flawless sight that every man loves, yet even so, only a handful are lucky enough to ever be able to worship it. He is about to make that a reality and is going to cross this bad boy off his bucket list. Raspberry asks him if he doesn't feel ashamed at all to ask that, and he says that gaze is also wonderful. Raspberry mentions he is hopeless, and then he says while wearing that he would love if she could sit here and asks to let him use her lap as a pillow and pat his head. While he puts his head on her lap, he says this might be doing something for him too, and she tells him to stop saying things like that and give her some fluid. Then she thinks he still seems to be making good progress at work. If he climbed up to 2nd from the top with a little help, she can make him number 1. The next night, Raspberry says Amari's office is on this floor and finally finds him in the office. She goes near him to appreciate his effort because it is Friday and he is still working hard over here. Then she sees the top-ranked co-worker on Amari's team, Igarashi Luke. She thinks if she removes him from the list, then Amari will move up to 1st place. Igarashi goes near his co-worker to ask if he needs his help, and his co-worker tells him that he is nowhere close to being finished with the presentation documents. Raspberry thinks he is showing his hand to higher-ranked opponent, and he is giving him all he can to spy things, which is why Amari is stuck in 2nd place. Igarashi completes the work quickly, and Amari asks if he has done that quickly, and then checks the work. Amari sees that Igarashi even worked too well, and Igarashi says he just used the template he got from one of their senpai while Raspberry has stepped away from the computer. She says if he shows even a moment of weakness to a vampire, it is all over for him. She makes a plan to send dirty little details of the transaction he is undertaking with this client to the wrong client, and by doing this, she will be able to completely vanish the trust that people have in him. The girl says to Igarashi that the company's performance is down overall, but they just keep increasing their quotes, and he says that is a recession for her. He says they might be the generation that takes the hit, but that is how they ended up as friends, so they should do their best together. Raspberry thinks this is so reliable for him. Raspberry says it may be true that their generation was born into the very worst of times, but what else can they do but keep on living? Lotus replies that they should do their best. The girl in the office shows Igarashi the work she has done, and he says she did nice work and then asks her if she wants to grab a drink with him. Raspberry replies that she has to go home because someone is waiting for her, and then receives a message from Raspberry that she has a thing to take care of, so she will not be able to come home tonight. Then the girl says to Igarashi that they can go to grab a drink now. Igarashi gets happy and says now they are talking, and Raspberry is keeping an eye on him for a little longer. Lotus then appears and asks Raspberry what is she doing in a place like this, and asks if she is having a fluid pack tonight. Raspberry says sometimes she feels like drinking some fluid. Then Lotus says she is not the kind of girl who ever feels like that, and Raspberry tells her to shut up. Sumeir is sitting at a table thinking about something. After thinking for a bit, she slams on the table and gets up. Then she looks for something in the laundry basket but can't find anything that she is looking for. So she opens the fridge, takes out the milk and places it next to Ren's shirt. She sniffs his shirt, gulps the milk and sniffs again. She keeps doing this, and then slams the milk pack on the table in anger. Ever since the previous incident where she went out of control, her appetite continued to grow. Every day she suppressed her hunger by sniffing a shirt with Ren's scent on it and drinking milk, which was of a similar consistency to fluid. Today alone she drank 3 cartons of milk and she bought them with Ren-san's money too. While she is wondering what to do, her educator Kikyu enters and says pardon her for entering like this. She just came for a little health check. Sumeir is crying and tells everything to her educator and then says at this rate she will drink out all the Ren's fluid, and he will be no more her educator. Says for them vampires when it comes to being close to humans, as their feelings of love grow, they seem to have a tendency to thirst for their fluid more and more. She says all it means is that she cares for that guy, and by no means it is a bad thing, but she wants to give her a little piece of advice. She asks Sumeir why doesn't she try taking a little break from suppressing her hunger with milk. Sumeir gets shocked and asks but if she doesn't have milk, she will get hungry, and Kikyu tells her if she only drinks a specific amount of fluid, she should be able to get all her nutrients. Kikyu says between fluid and milk, the milk is hundreds of times less nutrients than fluid. That being the case, her body demands more and more milk, and over-reliance on it can lead to so-called excess eating. With that, her suffering would only continue to increase and it would be better to resist and accustom herself to hunger, and Sumeir understand it all. Sumeir says she will give it a try and Kikyu says there is nothing to worry about. Sumeir is worried about whether or not the lad will return her feelings, which is why she is drinking fluid to confirm how he feels, and humans call this love. Kikyu tells her that as her relationship deepens, this love will become trust of love from a human and a vampire. She will become 2 lives drawn together, and once she understands how that feels, she should calm down and shouldn't give up. Sumeir asks Kikyu with a happy face why she knows so much about this. Could it be that she actually had some experience with that? Kikyu leaves without replying and asks her to say hello to Ren for her. Ren gets back home and thinks if someone is here while Raspberry is keeping an eye on the kids and says nobody wants to hear some old talking about the olden days and she feels jealous. Lotus wishes Rosario a happy birthday, and Rosario asks her in shock if she knows when her birthday is. Lotus replies of course she knows about it and tells her when she gets back from school they will have a party to celebrate, and Rosario gets super excited about it. She runs towards the school and Raspberry asks Lotus if it is her birthday. Lotus says that she would like her to help with the preparations as she doesn't seem to have much going on right now anyway, and Raspberry agrees with her. Then Raspberry says going to such lengths is really spoiling her, and Lotus replies that she has surveilled some other kids of Rosario's age and it seems like it is something that every family celebrates, so she would like her to experience some normalcy. Raspberry says the world is an unfair place and personally, she believes that she would be better off teaching her to use her failures and shortcomings as a springboard for growth, and Lotus asks her not to say that. In school, Rosario is waiting for the party while at home the preparations begin. Lotus says that Rosario loves strawberries and they should put the whole bunch of them on the cake. While Raspberry is thinking if she isn't a little too into this, Lotus says for the sponge sugar decoration on top, they should make it look like Hana-chan. Raspberry asks what is Hana-chan and Lotus tells her that it is Rosario's precious teddy bear, and she wonders if Rosario will like it or not. Raspberry thinks he has got it bad, and then Lotus says after completing the kitchen stuff that they need to decorate the apartment now. She throws all the stuff quickly and begins to decorate everything. She tells Raspberry to do things neatly while Raspberry sniffs a scent and says this is a scent of Rosario, but it is too early for her to get back home. But the scent is certainly similar. She tells Lotus that the scent is coming this way, and then both of them hide in the attic to scope things out. Someone opens the door with a key and says the place is clean and thinks if this is really their apartment. It is Rosario's mother, and she looks out if it is her apartment and then sees Hana-chan placed on the table. Thus, she recognizes that it is her apartment, while Raspberry says that she supposes it is Rosario's mother. She hasn't shown herself for months and months, but now she suddenly turns up and she seems very suspicious. Lotus says this place used to be a total dump, overflowing with trash, and Raspberry says at any rate they should withdraw for now. She tells Lotus that they should go now, but Lotus says she will not go, because what is Rosario going to think if she comes back from school and she is not here, and her mother, who abandoned her? Rather than feeling relieved her mother is back, wouldn't she feel bad at the return of her old life, where she couldn't even eat properly? Lotus decides that they are not leaving, and that they are deciding here right now as she promised Rosario a party after all. She asks Raspberry if she will stick with her for a while, and Raspberry agrees with her, and Rosario's mother finally leaves the apartment. Lotus and Raspberry say hello to her outside the apartment and tell her that they just moved in next door. That was months ago. But they finally met. Rosario's mother is looking at her clueless, and Lotus doesn't know what to say now. Rosario's mother comes back home and sees Lotus and Raspberry in there, so she wonders who are these people. Lotus says that he has been lucky enough to become friends with Rosario-chan, and they did some cleaning and so on together. Rosario's mother looks around and understands why the house is clean and tidy. However, she doesn't care at all and says if that is all, then she is going back inside. Raspberry is done with her attitude, and she says she has a bad attitude there and hates people like her. Lotus looks at her and Raspberry annoyingly asks him what happened, and Lotus grinds his teeth afterwards. He asks her if she is going to lecture him on how to properly take care of Rosario, and Rosario's mother says if that is the case, then she has already had her fill of that, so she is thankful for it. She slams the door and a girl comes in saying that her parents separated while she was still very young and her father brought her to this country and he passed before she reached her childhood. After that, she was supported by a man she had a relationship with, though that lifestyle was by no means stable at all. It is because as her debts increased, she abandoned her daughter and disappeared, and here they are now. Rosario's mother's name is Kirishima Eleonora, and Lotus asks her if she is a debt collector and says it is not quite, though not far off. Lotus starts to tell the story and says 20 years ago, Kirishima Eleonora used to live with her dad, but he brought her to this country. While she tells the story, Kirishima Eleonora is having a flashback of everything that has happened. The time she moved to a different country, the time she was left alone, and the time she had another human in her life. After listening to the story, Kirishima asks him what is so important there and asks what he wants from her. She says if it is money, then he is free to go, as she has no money right now. Raspberry thinks that is the thing. What is it he hopes to gain by confronting a woman like her? Meanwhile, Lotus smiles and asks Eleanor to make a deal with him with an evil smile on his face. Kirishima Eleanor shockingly asks him why would she make a deal with him, because this is how it was and how it has always been. She didn't do anything, and she doesn't know why is everyone after her. Eleanor seems very disturbed and she says she doesn't know and cannot understand why is everything like that, and why is everyone pointing at her. She is done with everything and she wants to go home now. After she is done talking, Lotus angrily says while she has her back against the wall, she shouldn't forget that Rosario is struggling too, and he is sure she had a hard life. Even so, he is also sure that all this was her own choice to make. When Lotus says this, Raspberry gets shocked and stays quiet after hearing these words from him. Lotus seems very angry and he says beyond that she has given birth to another life, so she should always remember that. Eleanor replies that it is so simple for him because all he needs to do is to blame it all on her, and Lotus says that is what he is telling her, and he asks her to make a deal with him. Meanwhile, on the other side, the school bell rings and a girl asks Rosario-chan if she wants to go to the park with her. However, Rosario isn't interested, and she says sorry to her as she has something important to do today. The girl understands her and says sure, they will go some other time. Rosario walks out of the school and walks directly towards the home. Lotus welcomes her back and wishes her a happy birthday. Rosario gets happy and says thanks to him for wishing her well. Lotus wants to continue the party without any further ado, so he brings in the cake and Rosario gets excited after seeing the cake. He says Raspberry makes the dress on the teddy and Rosario says it is incredible. She goes near Raspberry and asks her if she can teach her how to make this dress sometime soon. Raspberry agrees to do it and Rosario gets happy. All of them get ready for the cake cutting ceremony, and Rosario says she has always wanted to eat a big piece of cake and eats the biggest piece. She enjoys the cake and says it is too good, and Lotus feels glad to hear from her that she liked the cake. However, Rosario starts to feel sad, and Lotus asks her what is it. Rosario says that she was just thinking if only her mother could have some of this cake as well. Lotus shockingly looks at her and says she is so kind. After enjoying the party, Rosario goes to bed and Lotus asks Raspberry if Rosario is asleep, and she says yes, she is asleep now. Lotus thanks her for the help, and Raspberry says it is not like she had anything better to do. Raspberry goes near a bedroom and claims that it seems like it is pretty quiet in there, and Lotus says he will go to have a look. He opens the door and asks Eleanor if she can process the situation a little. She says they are vampires, and she doesn't like it, but she understands it. Lotus brings the remaining cake for her and says they should discuss the deal as they do not have time, and Eleanor understands the task. Lotus explains to Eleanor that the terms of the deal are exceedingly simple. He will provide her with suitable living conditions, and in return she will provide him with an appropriate amount of fluid. He says Rosario will stay with him, and regarding the fluid that she should be providing, he will have her shoulder that burden and provide roughly 1.5 people's share of fluid. He tells her to think of it as fulfilling parental rules. While eating the cake, Eleanor says it is not like she can get away from him anyway, and she agrees with it. Lotus thinks as things stand now, she can't feel sorry, and it will take some time for him to turn this situation around. Lotus gets up and says that they should go back to their work, and Eleanor asks him where is he taking her this time. Lotus asks her if she doesn't want to go back home, back to her hometown, and Eleanor asks her if she has to go right now. He takes her out and says she used to live up there about halfway up that mountain, and it seems like no one lives there now, so let them proceed to the town at the foot of the mountains. Eleanor couldn't believe that they crossed the ocean in an instant, but she knew the dry air and the nostalgic scent of this soil. Both of them finally reach the town, and Eleanor tells Lotus that they used to come to this restaurant all the time, and she guessed it still hasn't gone out of business. Lotus says since they are there, they should go in and have something to eat. He says he will wait outside until she's back because he cannot go in there as he cannot eat. Eleanor goes into the restaurant and a guy comes near her and says it feels like he knows her from somewhere. Eleanor introduces herself and says she used to live up the mountains a long time ago, and the guy says it takes him back as she just looks like her mother, and he heard rumors that she had quite a bit of trouble back then. The guy asks her to share any trouble she is facing today, as he is there for her. After eating the dinner, they go to a nearby home and Lotus says they will be staying here for tonight. Both of them go in there and the manager gives them a variety of identification documents. Lotus says they are the copy of the originals for now, but later on they will be the real thing. He decides to put off taking any fluid until tomorrow, and he asks Eleanor why doesn't she have a drink for tonight and relax. Eleanor takes the drink and says he is a sweetheart, and Lotus asks her to at least use a glass because she gulps the drink through the bottle. At night they go to their room and Eleanor goes to bed to sleep. She says to Lotus that she doesn't get him at all and asks if he is this generous to Rosario as well. Lotus says no, he is more generous, perhaps because Rosario is a much more well-behaved girl than her after all. Eleanor smiles after listening to that and goes back to lie down. She says she feels too good, and if she is no more right now then it would be more amazing. Lotus asks her not to forget the deal and Eleanor says she doesn't care and asks him to end everything right now. Lotus says it would be better if she just goes to bed right now and Eleanor asks him not to ignore her. Lotus then asks her if it isn't a bit lonely to sleep alone and says he brought a friend for her. Eleanor shockingly asks him what is he even talking about and gets up to see what it is. Lotus gives her the teddy she used to have in her childhood and asks what is his name. Eleanor says its name is Rex, and Lotus says it seems like Rex was a little lonely, and he is a bit upset with her. He asks her to apologize to Rex and tells her to make sure not to leave him behind anymore. Eleanor picks up the teddy and says he is late. He should have shown up 20 years ago. She says if he had come a little sooner, maybe she wouldn't have turned out like this. She says these words and goes to sleep, and Raspberry says she wonders what he is up to. But that is that settled. As ever, she doesn't understand humans. They are mother and daughter, but they seem like complete opposites. She makes Rosario seem like a real cutie, but then Raspberry gets a little weird and says she thinks they are alike. Both of them, from here on out. Meanwhile, Sumeir and Ren's life have been in too much trouble. However, time passed just as it always does, and from outside, Sumeir and Ren's relationship began to look more and more like that of a married couple. She makes food for him and he appreciates her cooking as usual. Once Sumeir asks Ren how is his work today and he says that he finally got things off his plate. Sumeir appreciates his work and then Ren asks her what about her. Sumeir replies that today she checked out a brand new supermarket and she heard that eggs and other stuff were cheap there. Then she says those other two are giving it their all, so she figured that she should better do something too. Raspberry has been pulling all sorts of strings and she is helping her partner climb up the corporate ladder. She heard that Lotus has a mother and daughter supporting him separately. Sumeir should expect nothing less from either of them, and it would be nice if she could be even a little as amazing as they are. Ren listens to her and then says that he thinks it is nice that he gets to have her as a partner. Sumeir smiles after hearing it and says she loves him. While they are showing their love to each other, Principal Sensei shows up and says it seems the two of them are getting along. He says this is a surprise check-in, and he only ever sees glowing praise in the reports on them, so he decided to check on the situation himself, and it appears that he didn't need to be worried at all. The principal says there are a few more weeks left in the interspecies love test, and he asks them not to relax just yet. Principal Sensei continues by saying that a serious problem has been developing and asks them if they are aware of those called flies. Ren asks if he is talking about bugs. Principal Sensei says those are the children born into the prisons of Dustbox, and they are called that about flies that land on garbage. Normally they wouldn't receive any fluid and therefore wouldn't grow. However, someone has been supplying them with fluid through underground channels, and a number of them grew up who had to be in prison. Beyond that, the flies have been taking people from the human world and gathering fluid, and the number of those incidents is expected to increase before long. Principal Sensei claims that they are a danger to both humans and vampires, and he asks them to contact him without any delay if they see any of them. Principal Sensei wishes them good luck and leaves the place. Ren says now that he thinks of it, there have been a few news stories about people disappearing lately, and Sumeir finds it dangerous. She asks him to be careful too, just in case. She is going to put her scent on him. After hearing it, Ren starts to laugh because he thinks of it as a joke. Meanwhile, in the dust box, someone asks Cedar if he is going to be all right on his own, and he says he will be fine as he has done a bunch of looks on his own. He claims that he is already fully grown, so there is no need to worry. Cedar says this to his partner Azalea, who seems worried about him. Cedar then asks her to drink enough, both for herself and the one who is going to come into this world. Azalea cannot understand him because he started to act manly all of a sudden. She then shows love to him and asks him to come back soon, and Cedar asks her to leave it to him as he can handle it on his own. He says he is going to bring a big one, and Azalea asks him to come back right away if he runs into any trouble. And Cedar understands the task given to him by his loved one. On a silent night, two vampires are talking about Sumeir's interspecies cohabitation test, which should be coming to an end fairly soon. Raspberry is reminded about it, to which she asks if Sumeir was working on it. Lotus says that most of their kohai are already done for. Based on the results of Sumeir's test, the vampire world will have no choice but to undergo reforms. He bets that the academy will be drastically simplified. A lot of things are likely to be turned on their heads. Raspberry adds that some would say reforms, but others would call it collapse. She wonders what all of their fluids were soaked hard for in the end. Lotus assures her that all the power she gained from her hard won't go to waste. But Raspberry says that the value of all her hard work has diminished. Lotus asks Raspberry, let's say that these reforms go through, would she like to partner up and do something with him? Raspberry asks what is he up to, but Lotus clarifies that he hasn't decided yet. Raspberry is surprised to see Lotus doing things without planning them out first. Lotus smiles and says it seems to be more fun this way. They are comrades who walked a long and painful path together and ask Raspberry to spend a little more time with him. Raspberry thinks a little, then says she would not mind spending time with Lotus. They are still alive, so they should enjoy it. Just then, Lotus checks his watch and realizes he is getting late. With that, he left as Eleonora is a moody and a big drinker. Getting fluids from her can be a bit of a pain. The two bid farewell to each other, and Lotus leaves to see Eleonora, while Raspberry sits there wondering. Raspberry wonders why she said that they are still alive, so they have to enjoy it. If she looks back on it now, all she recalls of those days is that anxious feeling of being on the edge of collapsing from the pressure. Seeing classmates after classmates flunking out, it comforted her because she was still right at the time. She believed that as long as she was on top of the rankings, she was getting closer to true happiness. But after coming to the human world, the things she has seen tell a completely different story. She has seen a whiner who complains at the drop of a hat, a girl whose living conditions were the lowest of the low, a fool who shelters bumblers based solely on emotions. Every single one of these failures seemed to be smiling and having fun more than her. She gets a flashback of Lotus asking her if she would like to partner up if the reforms go through. This makes her wonder if it would be actually fun if all the rules of the vampire world were smashed to bits. She smiles, saying that wouldn't be so bad. Just then, she senses something and takes a sniff. Shocked, she turns around to check on her surroundings. Just now, she smelled a vampire, but it wasn't an ordinary scent. It was more barbaric. She takes out her sword to protect herself in case something goes wrong. On the other hand, Sumeir lets Ren know that they are out of garbage bags. Ren suggests heading out and buying some garbage bags. With that, the two go out for a walk. Sumeir apologizes to Ren for dragging him out after a long working day, but Ren says it is a nice change of pace. Sumeir says that the two going shopping late at night reminds her of the first time she met him. Back then, she lied to the cashier and told her that she was his lover, but now she would say that she is his wife. Ren laughs, saying that happened. Sumeir is happy as they are going to be together from now on. Just then, Sumeir also takes a sniff and realizes something. Ren asks what is it, to which Sumeir says she was getting a weird vampire smell from the park nearby. Confused, Ren asked what that was supposed to mean. As the two are talking, Raspberry comes out of nowhere, surprising Sumeir. She asks Raspberry if she is following the scent too. Raspberry agrees, saying she was just checking it out. Just then, something moves in the park, making Ren let the vampires know that there actually is something there in the park. A black aura forms, letting the trio know that something is wrong. Meanwhile, it turns out that the one who pursues those who disrupt order, the lumberjack Dahlia, has arrived with a small fly near her. The fly asks Dahlia to find them and eliminate them, but Dahlia laughs and reminds the fly that he started it all. The fly says that she has got that nose. He wants her help on this. Dahlia agrees, and with that, the fly flaps away to start their mission. On the other hand, Sumeir, Ren, and Raspberry check out the bushes in the park. They carefully come closer to the bushes to find a vampire boy's body who is severely injured. Raspberry takes a closer look at the boy, while Ren says in human terms the boy looks like he is in a middle school age, which is the same age Sumeir was when he found her. But Raspberry doesn't remember any classmates who looked like the boy in front of them. She also finds his clothes a little strange. On top of that, she says that there is no way a vampire would get such deep wounds while competing with a human. Upon closer examination, Raspberry says that the wounds look like the marks of the lumberjack's cross saws. She remembers the sensei talking about the population of flies rapidly rising. To think that they share the name vampire with those such as they who know nothing of the rule of order makes him shudder. Raspberry points her sword at the boy, shocking Ren and Sumeir. She says that the boy is a fly. They will hold him here and turn him over to the lumberjacks. Ren remembers the principal talking about flies. Sumeir reminds Raspberry that the boy is just a kid. Raspberry says she can see that too, but they can't have a kid like this fumbling around the human world. They as vampires provide a special advantage to humans, and so their existence in the shadows is preserved. They receive only blood in return, but these flies only put human lives in danger. If they cause a public uproar, the vampires will be the only ones who will suffer. Just then, the boy called Cedar asks for help from Raspberry and Sumeir. He says that his child will be born soon. Angry, Raspberry is annoyed that Cedar didn't even consider the consequences. Seeing the boy begging for human fluids like this reminds Sumeir of the first time she met Ren. She was begging for the human fluids as well, just like Cedar. With that, Sumeir uses Raspberry's sword and cuts her hand. She then decides to share her fluid with Cedar. Shocked, Raspberry asks Sumeir if she even knows what she is doing, but Sumeir says she knows what she is up to. Sumeir says that the principal told them to inform him in case they came across a fly, but he didn't say anything about not helping them. She says that is just some flimsy logic. But this boy is just like she was back then. She didn't have a place in the vampire world and she ended up like this. If she didn't save this boy now, she wouldn't be able to live with herself. She gets flashbacks of the time Ren helps her out. Ren looks at Sumeir with a smile. He is happy to see Sumeir helping the boy out. Just then, the boy, Cedar, starts coughing. Sumeir asks Cedar if he is feeling a little better. Raspberry decides to report Cedar to the higher authorities. She takes out the device to report to the lumberjacks. She says even if she is allowing Cedar this much, he should go ahead and warm up as he likes. However, don't make her an accessory in all of this. Just then, someone snatched the device from Raspberry's hands, saying this won't be necessary, since the three of them were unearthed in combat with this fly, and that is what her report will say. It turns out to be Lumberjack Greyrose. She asks Cedar to go home while cutting Raspberry's hands. Shocked, Raspberry asks in pain, why is a lumberjack who is supposed to hold order helping a fly? But Greyrose doesn't listen and puts her sword through Raspberry's body, unearthing her on the spot. She then smiles, saying that the 3 are down, and 2 more to go. Raspberry saw the sword jutting out of her stomach and realized her lumbar vertebrae were severed. She could no longer move her legs, or the wings on her hips, or her tail. She could no escape. With that, she falls to the ground, lifelessly looking at the scene. Greyrose gets ready to take Sumeir now. Sumeir gets ready to compete with Greyrose while asking Ren to take Raspberry with him. Greyrose laughs and asks if Sumeir is going to compete with a lumberjack like her. Worried, Ren looks at Raspberry and asks her to hand in there. Sumeir looks at the situation and realizes that there is no way she will win against a lumberjack. Greyrose will unearth her instantly. Just when Greyrose is about to give her all to unearth Sumeir, Cedar comes in between them. He asks Greyrose to stop and lets her know that Sumeir helped him out. He begs Greyrose to let Sumeir go, but Greyrose laughs, saying Cedar is a nice guy. He is so young but still a hard worker. He cherishes his wife Azalea. He would be a fine man if only he could get his head around the big picture. Greyrose points at Sumeir, stating she is a vampire who is against the current establishment. For them on the side of the rising power, Sumeir is their enemy. She laughs and says that there is nothing wrong with reducing the number of enemies on their way, but Cedar says that unearthing Sumeir is a little extreme. Greyrose says that Cedar has a very kind heart when just a few minutes ago his head was on the chopping block. It is only because of her intervention that it is even still on his shoulders. She asks Cedar to understand this. She then looks at the device of Raspberry as it is beeping for an emergency lumberjack alert that is coming from here. She looks at Raspberry, realizing that she has already informed the higher authorities about the situation. Annoyed, Greyrose says she should have separated Raspberry's head instead. Just then, Dahlia comes into the scene as well. She says she is 10 seconds away. Greyrose laughs, saying the last thing she needs is to get spotted in a place like this. Looks like they are all coming with her. Ren realizes what is about to happen and shouts, asking Sumeir to run. But Greyrose stops him. She grabs Ren and asks Sumeir to come with her if she values his partner Ren. Sumeir agrees to come with her as long as she doesn't aim at them. Greyrose says she won't do anything like that as long as they behave on themselves. And with that, before Dahlia could see them, they all got away. However, Dahlia can sense the smell of Ren, Sumeir, and their classmate, Raspberry. In the dust box interior, Greyrose makes Raspberry drink some fluid. She then explains to Ren that he is a human and won't know about it. She says that the cross the lumberjacks use has a particular design that is especially good at unearthing the vampires. He could say it is an anti-vampire tool. Even shallow wounds like those Sager sustained will effectively immobilize the target. So this means that Raspberry is done for. Even if by some miracle she was able to recover, it would require an immense amount of blood. Even if there were 10 humans, it still won't be enough. Greyrose tells Sumeir that as promised, she won't come for them. Still, she never said she would let them go. She asks them to do as they are told. She says she needs to go and make an alibi and takes her leave, since Dahlia tends to go over everything with a tooth comb. Ren gives Raspberry some more fluid. Surrounded by enemies on all sides, she musters up the last of her strength and sits. Raspberry chomps over Ren's finger. Just then, the enemies come to visit them as well. They wonder why Greyrose didn't finish them off. They look at the human and say he looks scrumptious. They gossip about how Cedar stopped her. They wonder why Greyrose spoils Cedar so much. On the other hand, Ren looked at Raspberry thinking she was completely lumped, but just now she bit onto his finger. Even after all of that, she still wants to keep on living. He wonders that there must be something to do in this situation. Just then, Cedar comes with some stuff, saying these guys could be concealing tools somewhere. He asks them to toss over everything they have got. Upon some search, one of the flies realizes that the only tool is that saw blade. He holds it in his hand and takes a closer look, stating it is a nice sword, and decides to keep it while the other one suggests doing a toss. They also decide to give the device to the folks who collect communication devices. They also look through other stuff like bags, wallets, and stuff, but they don't find the wallet much interesting, as the human currency won't be valuable for them, and toss it away. As the wallet drops, a medicine can be seen popping out of it. Ren looks at the medicine and realizes something. Years ago, the cohabitation test record keeper Mimosa told him about these medicines that improve human fluid production. He explained to Ren that since they come in pills, it is super simple to regulate the amount of extra fluid produced. 3 pills would be the same as the previous blood-producing medicine dose. Mimosa asked Ren if he would like to help her out and test the medicine. But Ren said that every time he takes them, it doesn't end well for him. But Mimosa, already drooling, said that if ends up with too much fluid, she will drink it for him. Ren decided to put the medicine in his wallet since he didn't want them to mix these into his food. He decided to hide the medicines for now. Realizing the power of the medicine, Ren takes them out of the wallet and has a little discussion with Sumeir, and things go smoothly. On the other hand, the vampires can be seen talking about the situation that has been going on lately. 3 of them are talking about how he is blamed all the time since he is the eldest. Just then, Lotus interrupts them, asking them to fill him in some details. Mimosa looks at him and realizes that he is Sumeir's classmate. Lotus introduces himself and explains that he received a strange communication from her colleague, Raspberry, that suddenly broke off. Since then, he hasn't been able to get in touch with her. He is concerned that something may have happened to her. He asks the vampires to inform him of the ongoing situation. After some discussion, Lotus says that if they dive in from this side, it is liable to no small amount of trouble. On top of that, Mimosa's downfall would spell the end of the change they hope to encourage in the vampire world. In other words, the best way to resolve this incident cleanly would be for those abducted members to escape under their powers, but Mimosa says that that is very less likely to happen. Dahlia says that when they were abducted, she was with them. Lotus, the 3 of them are classmates and are quite close, so he gets the feeling that they were all taken together. The other vampire asks them to hold on as she feels like she is being left out. She points out that Lotus is going to pretend that he was taken along with everyone else. He is going to go in after them. Dahlia says that one of the lumberjacks is behind this. If he crosses blades with them, it will get messy. Lotus says there is no way he would win, so he will run away. But Dahlia says she can't let him go in without any sword and decides to lend him her second sword. She says they don't have much to offer except this. Mimosa says that the only practical thing in her inventions is a first aid kit. He says that Sumeir and the others are in Lotus's hands, and like that, Lotus leaves to meet Raspberry. It seems like there is no time to waste. He has to avoid running into any lumberjacks. On the other hand, Grey Rose is laughing with some other lumberjacks. She says they are too good at finding the flies. She asks them to teach her and she will give them a shoulder rub. At the current location of the dust box, Lotus tries to find Ren, Sumeir, and Raspberry. He can faintly smell their scent, but there are so many other vampire scents layered over each other here that it is difficult to pin down which way it is coming from. He goes through one of the pathways while wondering how he is pretty sure the scent is coming from there. Lotus decides to go forward when he encounters a vampire. Simply, he rips off the hands of the vampire and goes forward. Just then, some other vampires notice him and ask him to stop since he isn't from here. They ask how did he get inside the box, but Lotus doesn't stop and keeps walking. Soon the other vampires lose sight of him. On the other hand, Sumeir goes to meet Azalea and her husband. She wants to ask them about something. Azalea explains that they are using one of the storage rooms, but if it is cleaned a little bit, it can accommodate a person to live in. Azalea asks if Grey Rose saved her husband Cedar. She says she thought that outside vampires were a piece of crap, but now she thinks there are some good ones out there as well. Sumeir explains what happened outside and how they took Ren as a hostage. Azalea asks Sumeir to join them so that Ren can be saved. She adds that she knows Sumeir thinks this is a terrible place, but still she suggests becoming friends. Just then, she starts making noises, to which Sumeir asks Azalea if she is alright. Azalea gets a little dizzy and sits nearby. She says she is fine. It is just that the little one inside her belly has been a bit active lately. Sumeir checks the belly and is surprised to realize that there is a baby in the belly. Azalea says that Sumeir looks a bit older than her. She asks if Sumeir had any kids before, but Sumeir simply says no. She says that she hasn't seen something like this before. Azalea says she had heard that there were getting to be fewer and fewer outside vampires, and from the looks of it, it is true. Azalea adds that this is her first baby and hopes that one day Sumeir will also experience this. Just then, Cedar joins them. He embraces his wife and tells Sumeir that he is very grateful to her that she saved him. It is all thanks to her that he was able to return to his wife and child. He also wants to apologize for getting her involved in all of this. He asks Sumeir to let him know if she needs anything at all without any hesitation. Azalea suggests Cedar to show Sumeir around. With that, they go on a little tour. Cedar explains the situation in the Grand Hall that no matter the time, there is always someone here. Next, they visit the bartering market. He says that his clothes got ripped up, so he will need to find some new ones too. Then they go to the watering hole where laundry can be done. They can also bathe here. He asks Sumeir to wash her face since they are here. Sumeir is a bit surprised to see all this. She always thought that the dust box was some dark and horrible place, but far from what she had imagined, it is very warm. Azalea suggests to Cedar that they should introduce Sumeir to a man. If she wants to fit in here, there is no better way than this. Cedar says that a lot of vampires were unearthed in the last lumberjack raid. There are probably some newly single guys in the older generation. Sumeir hears their conversation and interrupts them. She says she is grateful for how they are trying to help, but this is now what she wants. However, Azalea and Cedar are too invested to listen to her. They talk about divorced guys or if she is into younger guys and stuff. Confused, Sumeir says this is not what she means. She explains that she is married to Ren. That is why she needs to head back to the human world. She wants to live happily with Ren till the very end. This shocks Azalea and Cedar. They wonder how the two are supposed to live together since one is human and the other is a vampire. But Azalea says that wanting to live happily with a spouse is a feeling she can understand. They wonder if they can help Sumeir sneak out of here somehow, but they don't know how smoothly that will go. Sumeir is more than happy to know that she can go out of here. She thanks Azalea and Cedar for their help. Meanwhile, an emergency meeting of the lumberjacks is being held. In it, the safety checks are being discussed and the identity of the abducted vampires by the flies has been confirmed. They point out Sumeir, Ren, and Raspberry, and guess what? Who is saying all this? The one who abducted them, Grey Rose. Just then, she hears that Lotus is also one of them. Shocked, Grey Rose wonders who was that guy, while Dahlia gives her an evil smile. In the dust box, the vampires guarding Ren are talking about how it is unfair that they have to guard such a delicious human and they can't even come in contact with him. They find his scent appealing, which makes them hungry. One of them suggests that Ren is a big guy. If they suck up some fluid from him, nothing will happen to him. With that, the two vampires come closer to Ren when they realize that Ren is unconscious and has fluids coming out of his nose. The two vampires are shocked to see this. Turns out Ren took some weird medicines. Just then, Raspberry beats the vampires and says she is not going to leave the world in a place like this. With that, she slurps and chomps through Ren's fluids to heal. However, a point comes when she cannot take more fluids since her own body rejects them. She realizes that it is not that easy to heal from a cross saw. She decides to get out of the place before someone finds her. Just then, she notices her hand, which is covered with a tourniquet made from hair. It turns out, Sumeir cut her hair to cover Raspberry's wrist. She realizes how much her friend helps her. She looks back at Ren still unconscious and fluids dripping out of him, and decides not to leave him here all alone. On the other hand, a vampire catches Sumeir, Cedar, and Azalea. He explains about a girl in a room back there. They all go to check up on her. Azalea looks at the girl, saying she seems in a bit of a shock. She suggests leaving her alone for a bit. The vampire asks Azalea and Sumeir what the girl looks like, or if she is cute. Azalea says she is an outside vampire, so she is beautiful. The vampire gets all greedy and thinks that he should help the girl once she calms down a bit. It turns out Sumeir and Azalea have plotted up something here. The girl is just a statue in disguise. They leave the vampire with the girl in disguise and decide to find Ren and Raspberry. Sumeir is impressed with Cedar and Azalea as they even drew her a map. She looks at the map but cannot understand it properly. Some crossroad isn't on the map and the other way is just a block at the end. She finds the tunnels way too complicated and keeps twisting and turning the map. Just then, someone from behind shouts that they have escaped. Shocked, she wonders if she has been found already. Quickly, Sumeir tries to find a way out. She needed to hurry and hide before someone could find her. Just then, Lotus picks her up when she sees the vampires running around, stating a woman recovered from the verge of her end and escaped with a human male. The vampires divide into groups to find Ren and Raspberry quickly. Meanwhile, Sumeir looks up to realize that Lotus helped her out. She asks what is he doing here. Lotus says he was worried about them all, so he came here. He says that what the vampires are saying means that Ren and Raspberry have escaped. He realizes this is why he couldn't find them in the prison. Sumeir is happy to know that Raspberry is okay. She was afraid that Raspberry's wound would never heal. Lotus laughs, saying Raspberry is pretty stubborn after all. Sumeir says that if Raspberry survived, then that means Ren took the fluid-producing medicine. If they don't find him soon, he will be in a big problem. With that, the two decide to look for Ren and Raspberry. On the other hand, Raspberry and Ren are trying to run, but Raspberry gets tired. The vampires were coming their way, so she hid in the hole, but then they slipped all the way down here. She looks at Ren and thinks he is in really bad shape. He took the medicine so that he could save her, but now he has made his body produce too much fluid. She wonders if she could just slice a vein and lower his blood pressure. That would relieve him a little. She has drunk so much fluid that it disgusts her right now. She looks around wondering what is this place. She laughs, thinking she falls into a pile of garbage in the dust box, which seems too pathetic to be true. To her surprise, Grey Rose answers, saying she thinks it is a pretty fitting place for some puffed-up little vampire to meet her end. She is surprised to see Raspberry up and about after getting cut so deeply by the cross saw. She looks at Ren and says it looks like he has been pushing himself all this time. Angry, Raspberry holds her sword in one hand while asking what did she do. Grey Rose looks at them, stating they look too exhausted. She will put them down to sleep for good. With that, she vanishes into thin air. Worried, Raspberry wonders where is Grey Rose going to aim from. She realizes that if she doesn't come up with some strategy, she will be unearthed. She remembers Grey Rose saying she should have cut her neck, and this answers her question. Grey Rose is coming for her neck. She slashes her cross saw at Raspberry's neck, but Raspberry stops her on time. Grey Rose, the lumberjack, is a spy for the dust box. If someone asked her fellows what she is like, they might say that she is a little slow on the uptake, but she can do the job, so there is nothing to dislike about her. Since it appears that she is simply and honestly working hard, She is left with her own devices without any supervision. Combined with the fact that the dust box itself is a forbidden place, it only accelerates the expansion of her influence there. Raspberry was able to stop the cross saw, but her sword broke in the process, and she fell far away somewhere because of the power of the cross saw. Grey Rose captures Raspberry at last and is about to slunk the cross saw on her head when she dodges it. Grey Rose laughs, saying that if Raspberry gets reincarnated, she should join Lumberjack. But this chase doesn't last long. She again captures Raspberry and asks if she has any last words. As she is about to unearth her for good, she hears something coming from behind. Grey Rose drops Raspberry on the ground and laughs about it. She calls her nasty and asks if she would now like to be unearthed. But before she could do anything to Raspberry, a cross saw was thrown at her, slicing her eye. It turns out to be none other than Lotus and Sumeir. Sumeir quickly secures Ren while Lotus runs to check up on Raspberry. He is glad to see her alive. He picks her up and lets her know that they are getting out of there. But Grey Rose interrupts them, saying Lotus is late. She isn't going to let them leave alive. Sumeir lets Lotus know that she has taken Grey Rose's side. She suggests keeping some distance while they have a chance. Lotus asks Sumeir if she is alright. Sumeir laughs. This is better than carrying Raspberry on her back. Lotus decides to use Mimosa's emergency kit to heal Raspberry while they have the chance. With just a few fizzes, Raspberry's hand is cured completely. Next, Lotus uses some injections on Raspberry's back to help her vertebrae get back to normal. Raspberry looks at Lotus and the needle, asking if he is actually going to use that on her, in her spine. Lotus says she should get things over with. Raspberry asks her to be gentle, while Sumeir looks at them with a smirk. Once cured, Lotus asks Raspberry to try putting herself in his shoes next time. Raspberry's legs are all healed up and she can run properly now. Lotus lets everyone know that they don't have time to be goofing around since Grey Rose is coming after them. Raspberry reminds Louise that he gouaged Grey Rose's eyes, but Lotus Grey Rose can find them with their scent, which she has singled them out, and that is a lumberjack. On the other hand, Ren is not well. Sumeir asks him to hang in there. Lotus thinks that they need to hurry or Ren will be in trouble. Just causing some half-cooked distraction is not going to get them anywhere. They should just keep running straight out of here. A few flies stumble upon them on their way, but they simply ditch them and keep running forward. Thanks to the cave's network being so complicated, the communication network is pretty weak here. They are not surrounded just yet, so they should be able to break through and get away. They are about to reach the exit and can see it. Lotus and Sumeir look at the rare, thinking the vampires haven't caught up yet. But as they are about to leave, Grey Rose comes out of a wall, reminding them of her words that they are not getting out of here alive. When Grey Rose was young, she had a friend called Zelkoba. The two of them had awful grades. They were just heavy weights around the neck of the academy. But even so, when they were together, neither of them could have been more happier. They were each other's heart and soul. But then the policy of education for only the elite began to gain traction. Lives were decided based on the sole discretion of the upper echelons. And one day, Grey Rose found herself all alone. Zelkoba was sent away to the dust box. She cried all that time. She wondered if she was good enough, and Zelkoba wasn't. To this very day, Grey Rose has never gotten a reason she could accept. When she was suffering from her loss, she turned to a certain group. That group, the revolutionary faction, was at that time a small minority. They told her that they had a way of getting inside the dust box. If she can obtain a managerial post in the current vampire world, then they will allow her to sneak in and see her friends shortly. And so fortunately, she turned out to have a gift for combat. She trained relentlessly for decades, aiming for a much-coveted position with the lumberjacks. Then finally, one day, she became a lumberjack and visited the dust box. But Zelkoba was nowhere to be found. Those who were sent to the dust box were bound in iron chains and slowly lost their minds. In the end, they devoured one another. The revolutionary faction had been smuggling fluids into the dust box, but most of it was given to the new generation of vampires born within the walls of the dust box, those known as flies. From the very beginning, Zelkoba, who was bound in chains, was worthless to them. Just when Grey Rose was feeling like she had lost it all and was ready to give up, she met a child who was the spitting image of Zelkoba, a boy named Cedar. She wasn't sure if he was his grandson or great-grandson, but she knew without a doubt that Zelkoba's fluid flowed through his veins. Perhaps Zelkoba was no longer here, but even so, his soul was still connected, deep in the depths of this hole, able to live a free life. Because of all this, Grey Rose tells Sumeir and the rest that she has to keep it safe. This place they call a dump and a trash. She has to protect this paradise. Grey Rose lets everyone know that none of them is going out alive. Sumeir is shocked since they were so close, but now the exit has been closed by Grey Rose. They are wondering how they should get out of there when Raspberry asks Lotus to let her borrow the cross saw. She says Grey Rose left her pride in tatters. She won't be able to sleep if she doesn't repay the favor. Lotus smiles, saying he should help her out. Then, he asks Sumeir to get ready to move if she sees an opening. Raspberry says if Sumeir is lazy, they will leave her behind. With that, the opposition begins. Grey Rose and Raspberry compete with each other with all they have got. Raspberry counter-aims at Grey Rose, which makes Grey Rose laugh. She says she guesses there is a reason Raspberry hasn't been sawed to pieces yet. She asks Raspberry if she doesn't know when to give up. She reminds Raspberry about the number of vampires that live here. She adds that they are a new power, and they can overpower her and her current regime through sheer numbers. Even if they escape, she won't be able to stop the end of the vampire world. This society that disregards the weak will be destroyed root and stem and be remade. Then at last will the fallen be able to rest in peace. Raspberry says that no matter how oppressive the world may be, some have fought tooth and nail to cobble together a decent life. Lotus adds that this isn't fair to simply ignore everything and flip over the game board. Grey Rose laughs, saying this is only because they are talented and can say so. Lotus asks Grey Rose what talented is supposed to mean. Angry, Raspberry says that they have been struggling to survive with tears running down their faces. She asks them not to try and sum all that up with a single word. Grey Rose asks if they refuse to recognize all these chains of life that have been swept away here. Summers looks at the situation and interrupts the opposition. She says everyone, all the people she met here, were so nice. She won't forget their kindness for as long as I live. Even though they live in different places and have different rules, she wants all of them to get along, and that is how she feels. But Grey Rose is already too angry. She says hearing those words from the outside vampires makes her fluids boil. She says the talk is too cheap. Just then, Lotus grabs Grey Rose from behind, squeezing her ear and nose. Now, she can't tell where their aim is coming from. With that, they slice through her and decide to get out of there. Angry, Grey Rose lies there saying they are getting away like this. She repeats Sumeir's words that she won't forget it as long as she lives. But she wants them all to forget it. If pretty words like that were all it took, then she wouldn't be here in the first place. Azalea and Cedar hear this all as well. Azalea says that all Grey Rose wants is to live a happy life on the outside. Sumeir, Wren, Lotus, and Raspberry finally make it back outside while the lumberjack closes the exit. Lotus realizes that the sun is rising. They should make haste and leave this place. With that, they take Wren to the hospital, where he is cured. After some treatments, his condition stabilizes, and he is expected to wake up before long. Lotus is relieved that they wrapped everything up. He laughs with Raspberry, saying it was a tight spot. Raspberry acknowledges Lotus for saving them. She then looks at Sumeir and says that she did a nice job with a straight face. Both of them give a little high five to celebrate their achievement. Thanks to the information brought back from Sumeir and her surviving friends, the strength of the flies, which exceeded any expectations, was brought to light. The realization that the Vampire Society's policy of the few and the elite had gone too far and began to spread in opposition for it to grow. Taken together with the soon-to-be-completed results of Sumeir's interspecies cohabitation test, the Academy's education policy especially would soon begin to change in a major way. At the same time, Grey Rose was removed from her position with the lumberjacks, in preparation for a clash with the flies. Shortly, the vampires began to plan to increase their competing strength, and the polarized structure of the vampire world was brought further into stark relief. Meanwhile, in the lumberjack, Grey Rose is being treated for her eyes. Cedar apologizes to Grey Rose since he thinks it was his fault that she got fired. But Grey Rose says that if that is what he wants, then so be it. She says that it kind of feels like a weight has been lifted from her shoulders. She thinks she might just take things easy for the next little while. Just then, a vampire comes in and lets Cedar know that Azalea's water broke. A kid is going to be born any minute now. Without wasting any time, Cedar and Grey Rose run to see Azalea. At Amari's apartment, a man comes to visit Raspberry. He says a co-worker of his, named Igarashi, says he is starting a new company. He says he wants to give it a shot and knows that she will get angry about it, but Raspberry says she is okay with it. She says she has found something she wants to do for herself, so she won't be supporting him like she used to do before. She decides to become a lumberjack, so that next time she beats her, she will beat Grey Rose properly. In the restaurant where Elanera works, a cute little girl comes in. Lotus looks at her, stating she might have some homework to write about what her parents do for a living. Eleonora asks Lotus if he chose a time when the tables would be empty. She says his way of doing things is as slimy as ever. Lotus tells the girl Rosario that she must be eager to do this, so she better make sure to leave her with a good impression. Eleonora sighs and asks Lotus if he will say all the right things at once. Lotus asks what would she like, but Rosario says she can't read anything on this menu. Lotus assures her that her mother will explain everything to her. At Ren's apartment, Ren and Sumeir are watching TV when Ren calls Sumeir. He says they never got to do anything to celebrate. He asks if she would like to go somewhere if he gets some time off next time. Sumeir asks where would they go, to which Ren says honeymoon, and like that, the honeymoon period has finally begun. With that, they decide to check out a nighttime theme park. Ren says he thought it would be a little childish, but there aren't a ton of places that are open at night. Also, if it means they can have fun and won't get stares, then being in a big crowd is actually a plus. Sumeir is very happy to see a noisy and shiny place like this. Ren is happy to see her happy as usual. As the two walk around, Sumeir says this whole thing is fantastic. Just then, his stomach starts to make noises. Ren looks at her, stating she is just like a little kid. He looks around for a place so that Sumeir could have some fluids. Just then, Sumeir suggests going to a Ferris wheel. She says it is all turning and spinning, but it looks like it has something like a private room. With that, the two hops into one of the private room things in the Ferris wheel, and Sumeir gets to suck up the fluid. She says drinking fluid at a place like this makes her feel excited, to which Ren agrees. Later, they go to a hotel room. Sumeir wonders if it is okay for them to stay at a place like this. Ren says he wanted to see what staying in a suite would be like. Sumeir spots the bath and gets excited. She says it is so big that it looks like a pool. The two enjoy the bathtub at night and get sleep at noon when the sun is up. Later, they wake up and go out. As they are walking, Ren notices a jewelry shop. He says when he comes to think of it, they never bought the wedding rings. He says he has been saving up and planning on getting them one day. He suggests taking the opportunity and take a look at the rings. As they wander around seeing rings, Ren thinks that he knew the rings would be pricey, but these rings are something else. But they are also very important, so he will have to buy them. The shopkeeper tells Sumeir that most of their stuff is platinum. Sumeir says silver makes her skin all prickly, so anything except that would be fine. With that, the shopkeeper shows some rings to Sumeir. She shows one for durability, stating it will be stainless steel. Sumeir agrees to go with that one. Ren looks at the ring and asks Sumeir if she is okay with this ring. He says she doesn't have to worry about the price, but Sumeir says she likes the ring. Sumeir happily wears the ring, stating this is proof that she is married to Ren. She says whatever is going to last the longest is the best. She says she wonders if she will be able to wear this for the next 1,000 years. This makes the shopkeeper and Ren laugh as they find this humoristic. But deep down, Ren knows that Sumeir is telling the truth. Compared to Sumeir's lifespan, his own will be over in the blink of an eye. Still, if 1,000 years in the future Sumeir is wearing that ring, that would make him very happy. And like that, their interspecies cohabitation test is completed. Everyone congratulates each other and wonders if the vampire world will change for the better now. A vampire says all they are doing is saying thanks, but Azalea says that the direction the vampire society is headed is a very big change. On a phone call, Cedar says that this isn't satisfying at all. He asks them to wait so he can head down and hear his report. Sumeir on the other side of the phone call says that he could call it a checkpoint, but what the two of them do from now on isn't going to change a bit. And that is all she needs to be happy. The vampire is happy to hear this. With that, they decide to leave Sumeir in Ren's hands. Sumeir says to Ren that acting all cool like that was one thing, but she is sure that everything will work out. The two of them feel exhausted after this. Ren grabs Sumeir in his arms, stating he might sleep next to her today again. Sumeir is happy and says that they will be together forever, which makes Ren smile as well. So, in the end, they will be together through sickness and health. Sumeir decides to prepare for Ren's breakfast. She checks out the fridge and finds eggs that are about to expire. There are kind of lots of them, but she thinks she will use them all up. She quickly makes the breakfast and serves it on the table. Sumeir then goes to check up on Ren, who is still sleeping like a baby. She wakes him up with love. She tells him that if he gets through today, he will have off tomorrow. Ren agrees and decides to struggle through another day. As he is eating, he tells Sumeir that he hasn't seen any of the other vampires around lately. Sumeir replies, saying that is because Kukyu and the others are all finished with their education. She heard that the academy changed to a one-on-one teaching structure, so she thinks that they are all busy guiding new pupils. They say that Dahlia has taken on a role as a drill instructor with the lumberjacks. She is working with their newly formed reserve unit. And what's more is that Raspberry turned up there. Lotus is still with the Kirishima family. Rumor has it he has some big plans in the works and is traveling all over the world. Ren gets ready and says he should get himself going then. Sumeir says she is going to do her best and be a great wife. To that end, from today on, they will be implementing a daily take-care love session. They are partners after all. Ren says somehow that feels kind of embarrassing. The two bid each other off after having the take-care session. After that, they go back to their daily routine, with Ren going to the office and working hard, and Sumeir taking care of the house. Ren comes back after work and the two sleep peacefully. The graduation ceremony arrives soon as well. The two go there, take pictures, enjoy with the people, and come back. Everyone is happy and busy with their lives now. The days go by with the take-care sessions and back-home announcements when one day someone calls Sumeir and tells her that it is almost time to meet them. It turns out to be Sidra, who says he will be depending on Sumeir's supervision. In Cross Garden, which is a town where humans and vampires live together. These days, people and vampires can coexist in this town, but back then, vampires would stealthily prey upon humans to get fluids. Sumeir says civilization has progressed and circumstances have changed to the point where that seems impossible. However, no matter the era, there will always be people with nowhere to turn. Here, they provide these people with an environment where they can live, and in exchange, they receive fluid. That is the basic rule upon which this town is founded. Sidra tells Sumeir that he already knows all this. After all, it was her mother and father who found it. Sumeir agrees, saying she is sure. They have big expectations from their son too. Sumeir then points out at a girl, stating the first person Sidra will be working with is this girl. The girl looks healthy, maybe a little meek. She looks at Sidra, asking if he is nervous. Sidra says it is embarrassing, but he is neither as clever as his father, nor as powerful as his mother. Everyone is expecting great things from him, but to be perfectly honest, he doesn't feel very confident. But Sumeir assures Sidra that he will be alright. She tells Sidra to try, considering how that girl over there is feeling. She lost the only home she ever had in her world, and experienced unbearable loneliness. How she is in another world, unable to talk about experiences with anyone. It must be eating her up inside. What she probably wants most in the world is someone she can open herself up to. Someone who will understand her. She asks Sidra why doesn't he start by simply becoming her friend. She says she is sure he can do that. As Sidra agrees and decides to talk to the girl, Sumeir realizes that even she is feeling a little nervous. But then she looks at the ring in her hand and gives it a little love, stating she is going to do her best today too, Ren. Both Lotus and Raspberry smile kindly at Rika, asking if she has gotten used to living here. She shies away when in the presence of the elder vampires, for she is just a human girl. She hides behind Sidra. Sidra explains that these are his parents and there is nothing to be afraid of. She tells the girl to take things slow. It's okay. Sidra explains that she has just been in her room this whole time, so she needs to get out more and touch grass. Lotus smiles and likes the area but tells Rika not to force herself. Sidra bows respectfully to his parents before turning to leave. When he leaves, Raspberry winks at Lotus. She remembers when her husband was just like their kid back in the day. Speaking of Sidra, he pops up her hoodie, telling her that folks should ignore her for the most part with her new disguise. They arrive at a large building, which is the blood-drawing plaza. Some days, a specific amount of blood is harvested from humans so that the vampires can lead their lives over here without a hunt. He then shows Rika all of the rows of humans toiling away in the sun. These are farms. These are here in the name of keeping humans fed. Many cultivator research crops, and he has also tried it, so it's fun. He leads her to a large corridor. This is the front gate. When she came here from the human world, this should have been the first place she passed by. A voice calls him in surprise, calling him the president's son. Another vampire greets her with an ear-to-ear grin. Sidra is glad to see Rose San looking healthy. Rose smiles and looks at Rika. Rika is in charge of the salvagers. They go through the security of the human world and bring people who have nowhere else to go here. He is like a pro-deliveryman. Rose smiles and likes the intro that he just got. He looks at Rika, recognizing her as one of Sidra's followers. Rika, with wide eyes, tells her serial number and name. The kind-looking vampire reminds Rika that they don't use numbers over here. She can go ahead and forget about it. He smiles and tells Rika to get along with the vampires. This will probably be a lifelong relationship. They bow respectfully and turn to leave. Everywhere they go, vampires greet them with utmost respect, most probably because of Sidra and him being the president's son. Rika notices how incredible he is. Everyone follows him around and tries to say hello. He is like the prince of a fairy tale. Instead of being happy with Rika's glaze, he sighs. He is not that incredible. It's his parents who are amazing. When the vampire world is in chaos due to the changes in human society, its population was decreasing. That's when his parents took charge of the vampire world and founded the city. To the vampires, they are nothing less than heroes. Compared to that, he is just a sapling, an unproven daddy's boy from a rich family. That's why clinging to him won't make her any safer. He tells Rika not to understand or get the wrong idea. Rika just looks at him with wide eyes and hugs him closer, saying that she wants to stay with him. Sidra can't believe that she is still saying that after what he just said, but she doesn't care if he deserves the respect he is given or not. To her, he is the only source of comfort in this unfamiliar world. Later, Sumeir arrives, wondering where they were off to. Sidra motions for Sumeir to be quiet because Rika is sleeping while using his lap as a pillow. Looks like going out for the first time wore her out. After all, it's a big step for a human. Later, Sidra and Sumeir sit together. Her future is kind of bleak, Sidra explains. She clings to him and can't even wash herself. If he doesn't get her to stand on her own feet, her life will probably be over. Sumeir smiles wisely. Humans indeed live a short life when compared to theirs, but the time he spends with a girl will pass in the blink of an eye. But at the same time, in the limited time they will have, she will leave him a lot of fond memories. Sumeir closes her eyes as if remembering something eons ago. She will give him a place to come home to as he walks through the never-ending night, so the future won't be so bleak. Sidra cheers up. A voice calls out to Sidra, asking if he's here. He realizes that Rika must be awake and at a loss. Sumeir suggests that he make her something to eat to ease her into her new life. Sumeir also notices both Raspberry and Lotus eavesdropping from behind the hall. Lotus smiles. He just wanted to check out things for his son. And Raspberry wonders if he's doing fine. They all hug together and smile, looking at Sidra fussing over Rika and wiping the cake crumbs on her cheek. They are doing great.